and I'm happy to be part of this really fantastic summit. I will try to give you some impression of the work I did and the topics I have, and would be happy to get into some discussions with you. And I first want to thank you all the organizers of the summit. This is really fantastic. So many lecturers, so interesting people to meet. I couldn't manage to go to many of them, but I will try to do as much as possible, and would hope that this will be continued in the next time. So very, very many thanks to all those organizers, volunteers, sponsors, and also. So what do we have next? It doesn't. Okay. So I will have some input and hopefully time for discussion, as already mentioned. So where I am in the middle of Germany. It's called Erfurt. The country is Thuringia, Thüringen, and yeah, it's right in the center of Europe somehow. And I would be interested later if I will try to have a real view. So maybe you can tell me if you can see the live stream loading at the moment. So this is me in the lab, or should be me in the lab. So maybe give me some emojis if you can see the live stream. Okay, no, this one is not working. It's maybe, so we have two working streams and one
I can see
not
it,
working. Okay.
I can see it. Yeah.
Okay, so I just wave. There's some delay on it. Yeah. Okay. So that's me in the lab in the university. Yeah. Okay. Don't waste too much time on that. So where do I come from? Originally I studied architecture at the University of Darmstadt. But I early discovered all the possibilities of digital technologies, not that common at that time, especially for architects. They were not used at all. Digital instruments, immersive technologies were not known. So I swapped over to the Fraunhofer Institute, was part of the first virtual reality center, the first center in Germany with large machines running really expensive hardware. I got to Berlin working in an agency in a department where we made some participation tools for city planning with VR. So we presented the Reichstag and all the buildings that have been planned at that time in the center of Berlin to give the people an insight of what is planned and to have a good platform for discussions on that.
Yes,
translation. I have my own company which works on environments, digital environments, hybrid realities, as we call it. I had the chance to run a business for an entertainment center called Cyberarium in Darmstadt for some years. So we promoted and showed technologies as itself, but especially to help to give people an impression or an idea about how technology can be used for teaching. So I'm looking for those topics all the time. Then I got the opportunity to be a lecturer and finally became a professor 10 years ago. This is my daily business today, to teach people. Here an image from one of the first things we did. This is the Berlin city. It's planning in 1993, and it doesn't look that different to the live view in the lab. It's also somebody having some plastic cap mounted thing on the head and something in his hand and acting in a virtual environment. It's a long way, and I'm really happy that we are here today in a more or less easy way can come together. Technology has evolved, and now we have to do the formats and all the stuff. So what is the daily business? I have to learn how to click. Does not click always. So it's for sure it's education. It's a university, and my specific topic is digital media. There it's human computer interaction and web and all those stuff. And I have the possibility to also teach XR stuff with all its possibilities. And in the intersection, clicking does not work, or it's probably is a delay, and so we have e-learning, serious games, immersive learning at the core of this, or the intersections of all these this area. So this is the way things fit into me. And now I would like to know where you come from, and because we have limited possibilities of interaction here, so that my idea is that you just move to the left or right according to your current location. So this is your left, so you should just align to the map. And we see, and hopefully Serenity can make a selfie on that. Okay, and I have to remap. I have to mirror the thing. So okay, so for you all, it's probably still night. And Constanze, where are you from? You're probably from Europe, or from the name, I would say, it might be Germany. We can talk later. Okay, so perfect. Do you have a screenshot, a selfie? Okay, hopefully you have. Okay. Okay, thank you. So I got an impression. So same principle. Assuming that you're all educators or teachers somehow, would be interested in what age your students are. So is it children? So go more to your left. And Serenity told me that she's teaching or having students 6 to 80, so broad things. So okay, so okay. See, so interesting. This is really a nice diagram. I would take a picture of my own. Okay, swap cameras and make a picture. Thank you. Okay. And how long are you using immersive tech? Maybe you just started because of the summit. So to your right, you're more new to the topic, or to the left, you would be kind of experienced. Okay, Jay does it for a long time. Okay, perfect. Okay, I take another screenshot if you don't mind. Takes me a second. Okay, thank you. This is a kind of scientific. So, and something I found very interesting in my work life was at the first university in Darmstadt, I had the opportunity to teach in Second Life. And I really liked it very much because it was blended learning, so I knew the people in real space. So we had a part of 40% being physically at the same location at the university and talking to each other, and then we have kind of 60% of the sessions were online, and I never experienced this perfect match of equalness of my students, because this is a chance of virtualization that everybody is more like anybody else. So and the shy people come out earlier. So this was really one interesting and helpful thing with that. So they built, we built the university building at first, and then we had classical formats teaching with frontal, more formal settings, but this was not important anymore. Important was the sandbox thing. And I'm still looking for the platform where I have easy access to something like that, like building things together. You can just go by and see and talk to what the idea of them is. So this is real and was a nice a nice setting. I really liked it very much. It was very creative and very effective. And so the students, they built some then they built exhibits about a topic they are interested in and have been already taught in. So it was about 3-point lighting for film production as an illustration within Second Life. So it was learning by teaching other people about stuff, which is a kind of really interesting format to do, I guess. And the last one was, it was a time where the one laptop per child things were, and was shown how those laptops connect and build up a mesh network, and it was kind of illustration and really an interesting thing. So maybe you can tell me what technology you're using. Maybe you're using all of them, but which one is you're mostly using? So to the left it would be more or less the 360 thing. So it's more videos. It's more the cardboard thing, maybe daydream thing. VR would be, headsets, maybe today. And AR would be handheld AR or smart glasses also. So, okay, let's take a picture. Thank you very much. So here we go. And shoot. Thank you. So I think if I would have asked this 2 years ago, there would be a lot of people to the left with the 360. I think this was the most common thing. But probably this one is because we're in art space, you're already on the way in real interactive worlds. So you know that. Most of the times I'm still teaching that this is possible. What we're doing today is possible. Not many people know this. And they should know. So why immersive learning? Why should we do that? That's obvious. We're meeting here, so this is our topic. The tech is there. It's not easy. It's not cheap enough. It's difficult. There's many things that should work, but the tech is there. I use this graphics to get some structure into the types of devices, but I change this every month. I change the axes, but to give an overview from the more or less simple ones like the cardboards, the tech is not developed anymore, and to the room scale things and the new autonomous untethered headsets, which are really groundbreaking thing, I think, for the price you get. Okay, so we have the tech. It's not easy. We have some work with it and prepared and everything. So things are not okay. But why do we do it? We have a 3D representation of content, which is really important. That's 3D. So to have a machine or whatever, a flower or biology, a body in 3D and all those complex presentations, illustrations are really helpful for learning in itself. Being with the content, maybe in the content, if you're in the Colosseum of Rome, if you're inside it, you experience it like it has been, or like you would be there, or would have been in the past. So the immersion is very important, and in many cases it's really an advantage to be really focused on that, on the content, because you're in there, you're not distracted from anything else. And since it's interactive, like a lot of e-learning simulation things, it's possible to try out things riskless at any time and repeatedly, which is also very, very important and helpful for learning. What are applications in the teaching context? There are many. I just selected some of them. So the colleagues in Würzburg at the university, they're using 3D for affinity transformations in mathematics. So they have an interactive application that they use to get the people to understand 3D matrices and all those calculations easier within a 3D world. Kind of gamification is in there. We do have, the same guys do have simulation of classroom for classroom management training. So they simulate pupils, students, and their behavior, so misbehavior and actions that the teacher can do. So this is also a very interesting project, and they're and in a large scale, more on the industry side, Deutsche Bahn in Germany, train network. They are training 4,000 of their employees on the handicapped elevator for the handicapped people, which is quite complicated, and the trains are not available at any place at any time for 4,000 people. So they pre-train all the people in a really large scale. Okay, so these are interesting things. There's a book, it's in German. There we wrote a chapter on that, how things are used in the industry at the moment, and many other interesting chapters in this book. It's quite new. The topic itself, or the content itself, is at least 1 year old. It took them some time to compile all that. What do we have here in the university? I'm here in the university, standing in the university, and how does it work at the moment? Yeah, it's classical. I think this is true for most of the universities worldwide. There are some more advanced and some less. That we have really challenges. We have very heterogeneous type of students, different people coming to different expectations, different pre-knowledge and things like that. We have quite dynamic content to promote, to teach, really challenges. World is rotating, things are changing, and we have to scope with that. I'm in the digital media and informatics or computer science business, and so every 2 months a lot of things changed, versions, behaviors, APIs, whatever. And actually most of the university is running in the quite formal setting with lecture halls like this one, and teaching, trying to get over some content to many people at the same time, which might be efficient in the way in the sense of money, resources, but not in the way, it might not be that efficient in the way of really teaching and learning and outcome on that. So we know all that because we are here. You probably are looking for other ways to teach things. And many people don't know about the possibilities, and probably most of you are, I don't know how you say, missionaries, I don't know, are on the mission to promote all those things like I do many times. And this gives us the chance to request in what formats to learn, how do people learn, what do they learn, and to adapt to the needs and skills that are needed for a successful future of all us. How do we work here? So we have the opportunity to have this immersive learning lab. It's just a label, the lab. You saw it in the live stream before. It's 1.5 room to say. It's some people that are looking for that, and we're just building up. We started 9 months ago, and now I will show you some of the things. Okay, so this is the lab itself and its formal surrounding. So we did some VR experiences for teaching. So this is about electromobility. So we have kind of a car, and I'm looking up there because you probably don't see it, but sometimes I look up there because I've mirrored my slides there. So that's why I'm looking up there, and I try to point there and to click the slides, but they only move if I turn back. So just as an explanation. So this is about how electrical cars work, what are the components in there. So it's a kind of a puzzle to get into the topic of these technical things of electric cars. What do we have? We have illustrations to books. So this is a book I was participating on. It's a book about virtual reality. It's in German, but it's a really large and well-used textbook about VR, AR, at least in German-speaking countries. And it has been republished. It's from 2019, so it should be kind of up to date, even if it's a printed book or to be downloaded. And we made for some chapters, we made illustrations. Like this one telling about scene hierarchies, which is important for computer graphics. But in a virtual environment, obviously for VR, AR, you should teach it this one in VR, some of the topics at least. So then we're doing with the colleagues from the building technologies. I hope the next slide shows it a little. It may be low for it, it's a GIF. So this is a try, and maybe you can give me some emojis if you can see it, or if after it loaded, you can see it, or yeah, okay. Not everybody can see it. We would have to check out. So it's showing how you can walk around in a simulated room. You can place some type of heating technology, like a standard, I don't know, heater, in opposite or in comparison to something that's heating in the floor, and this gives things, or you can experience things like the movement of the air, of the heated air, and the degradation or the increase or decrease of the temperature within the room. And this is not easy to teach in a sketch or in words, but you can experience where are the heat zones and where are the cold zones. And what happens if you pull up the heater or open the window, and how things are changing. So, and you can visualize things that you. So please enter to resync. Okay, so the inventors suggested to re-enter if you can't see the presentation at all. This would be not nice. The videos are not so important. I try to illustrate them, but if you don't see any presentation, yeah, please re-enter, or give me a sign or to Serenity that something is not working well. Another project we do have in an interdisciplinary group with the architects, we did. Okay, I just touched the reality. I have to walk back. Sorry for that. Okay, so I'm back. So this is showing an exhibition from Bauhaus, 1931. We have the Bauhaus year, or we had last year was Bauhaus, the year of the Bauhaus, and this was an exhibition from 1931, and we constructed it with students, and so it can be experienced like closely like it has been in that time, and this was really an interesting cultural project for kind of a cultural heritage thing. If you don't see it, I'm sorry. So this one was okay. Yeah, I know that. Sorry, we have to check out what's better, because we tested it with the GIFs and it worked. Probably we have to check out which platform works good with GIFs and things like that. This has to improve. So this one was about simulation of workplaces. The students in the logistics faculty, they learn, you see on your left, you see they get this picture, then they get a table, and they have to fill in what people will have in the workplace to do, and how much time they probably, the time is given them to do those steps. And we did virtualize this, and now the students can really experience that workplace, because probably the students haven't been in such a plant or at such a workplace in reality, so they at least get a feeling for the space and the effort the workers will have later. So this is really helpful. So now, since we're already online, and the slides not always move immediately, there is already a lot of things going on in VR for many years in the industry, especially in the area of design reviews. So mobile manufacturers and their developers communicate via visualizations, interactive visualizations, 3D, VR visualizations for many years. So this is common. Not always collaborative in the sense I would like to have it, but at least they exchange and discuss designs of that. So in the industry, this is well known. In the technical development of things, this is well known. And now we have something like AltSpace. We have those social VR platforms, and we use it at least for a meeting at the moment. So I would like to know if later we can have in the discussion how you feel these tools should be improved, what functions are needed, what features are needed. So this was something I would like to talk about. So I'm talking half an hour. Yeah, we'll go fast. So is everything all right at the moment? So can you follow? Have you any questions at the moment? So you may raise your hands if there are any questions. So you should have the button, and you maybe know, but you should have a button to raise your hand, and Serenity will check out if there's any questions on that. If not, I would just continue. Okay, so we will have, so I already had several meetups in AltSpace, and it was always interesting because people were kind of relaxed. They didn't have to book a train, a flight, or some things like that, or go by car to any place. So this gives resources, and this is important. It gives flexibility. You know how difficult it is to get people in one place. In reality, have the room, book the room, and all those things. You know it. So it's interesting to have this opportunity, and we used it for several meetups. Less than Second Life in AltSpace, the creativity tools are not evolved as much as I would like to have it. So if you have a discussion and want to note things or keep things or illustrate things, this is not possible. At the moment, you have a world editor, you can prepare things, but it's still, I struggled with it a lot. So there are other social platforms, a selection. So yeah, we have Rec Room, VR Chat. We will have Facebook Horizon. We'll see how this will work out for us. And we have Sensor and High Fidelity. Both are, as far as I know, struggling somehow. From the commercialization side, get through because there are nice platforms that are in, and there are many more of those. Looking at on the labels to your left on the wall, the platforms that are involved here in the Summit Somnium space. Mozilla Hubs is interesting for us as computer science people, as an open source. Platform that can be expanded. It's interesting for us to develop for that platform.
Rolf, we do have a question. Actually, it's me.
Yeah.
I thought I'd have a question.
Perfect.
Fine. In your specifically, do you feel you would like to have improved at the moment in the near future that would help you with the kind of work that you do?
I may come back to this because I have a slide where it's again about a basis for the discussion, and we should talk about the features that are needed. From my side, the collaboration aspect is here now, it's possible, but in most of the other platforms or activities so far, this is not used as much as it should be. Collaboration, learning from each other is something that's very important, and not learning on your own, learning from each other would be very, very helpful. So this is something that should be improved in the tools, in the settings, in the platforms, in the minds. Yeah, this is something as a short answer for now. So is this okay for now as an answer?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay,
Audience members, feel free to hit the raise hand button and ask questions. In fact, I can see we've got another one on there. Would you like to take another question?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so a misunderstanding probably. Is there another raised hand? Okay,
yes,
Constance.
actually three.
Constance.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I just learned already.
So I was
Okay, go
wondering,
on.
what kind of people do join those sessions normally, and with what kind of devices do they join? Because I could imagine, or for me as a student, for me it's not really affordable to purchase Oculus or any of those things at the moment, and unfortunately my university doesn't have like broad access for all students to use VR tools. So what's your experience like? How do people join, and how do you think this can be made more accessible for more people?
The good thing is that the platforms, or at least ArtSpace, this is I think one of the really advantages is that it's available for a lot of platforms. It can run on a smartphone, it can run on desktop. As far as I know, it does not run on MacBooks because it's Microsoft. I don't know. I might be wrong on that. But so the possibilities for people are kind of broad. Difficult to raise more about internet connections, firewalls. If somebody from a company wants to enter, he has to talk to his IT department to open the firewall to get through. This has been a challenge, is a challenge. We'll see. We have to work on that. And so who does participate? What's the other part of the question? It depends on it. So it was the meetups were meetups about VR in general. It was VR meetups that normally happen physically. We have one here in our region, and there are other ones. And we are planning to have the first nationwide, German-wide VR meetup in kind of April. I think I had it as a sticker on the slide. There's no date yet, but so it's people interested in VR and having the experience. So it's not about teaching, but we had also had there's a group, Immersive Learning, led by Thorsten Fell, who's doing a lot of stuff in this area. So if somebody's interested in German-speaking community with industry, Thorsten is the one to ask. He has a roundtable, and we already did one, and we'll do more of those meetings.
Can I ask a quick question, please?
Yeah, Daniel, go on.
It's Daniel here from Educators in VR. Thank you, Rolf, for your really interactive session. If you know Thorsten Fell, I emailed him to ask him to join this conference. Sadly, we didn't get a response, but if you know him, please would you ask him to connect with us, because we would love to, collaborate with him and have him. The work he's doing, his blog, is absolutely amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm absolutely optimistic that he will join. He's at the moment he's more or less a one-man show doing amazing stuff and much stuff and evolving things. So maybe you can. I know we are already friends. You just give me an email or a message, something like that. Later on, might miss that one during the presentation. No, it won't be a problem to connect to Thorsten. He did. So in Germany, there's one large conference, the LearnTech in Karlsruhe, has been in January, and there was an AR/VR area. So things get forward.
Where did you say the LearnTech was? Sorry.
The LearnTech is in Karlsruhe, which is between Frankfurt and end of January, and he organized.
I grew up in Karlsruhe.
Sehr schön, sehr schön.
Okay.
Yeah. Welcome. Any other questions? So just raise your hand, and maybe Serenity gives me some sign that there's some more questions or something. Okay, so sorry?
Anybody else for questions? There's oh, hang on, I just put my microphone back on. There we go. There's no more questions currently, but I'll let you know if any more come up. Please do feel free to raise your hands, audience.
Yeah, please, because the interactivity is more interesting than slides. Obviously, Engage is a platform that's very interesting. We found it, and we did some research or had a look at several platforms, and we found that this is really kind of mature to use, and many features and really good UI and things. So this for me myself. So this would be the preferred platform at the moment. And we're gonna do the German-wide VR/AR meetup, probably also in Engage, because it's available for many platforms. I'm not sure, still on Quest, it's side loading. This is something that has to change, it's not their fault, I guess. Okay, so I have a list. Okay, this is a text-heavy slide. I will just drop down, but to get through the points, what do we need? What is the important thing? Maybe it's a kind of answer to your question for what do we might need. So it's for sure we have to have accessibility. Everybody has to get on it, has to have the device. Somehow it should be possible to get hands on it. Should not be blocked by availability of connections in hardware. The question of avatars is a big one. So we have more robotic avatars. I see here now. We have more realistic ones. Looking at the avatars in Engage, they're even more realistic. You can have your personal picture converted into a face. It's not the most important thing, but it relates. If you have, it depends what you want to do, but it's an interesting aspect at least. One of the questions might be, do people want to individualize and look like they're in reality? Is it something that's recommended, or the people are forced to, or is it open to the people? And the Second Life thing, okay, I need to wrap up in this space about 5 minutes. Okay, Serenity, sorry. Do we have to? Do the avatars have to be like in reality? Something that has to be decided. So this does not run. It takes a time. So we have to have good moderation tools. I'm very happy to have 2.5 or two sidekicks here that help me out. Not to run more or less complicated moderating tools. So this is something important. I think on Outspace they're good and probably evolve to this event even more. What else? Usability. So there are several examples of good or bad usability. Outspace wouldn't be at the foremost front. I still struggle with the interaction on that, but this might be individually, but usability is key. Like people are used to use their smartphone, it's important. We have to get there to have a good mixture of 2D user interface, 3D user interface, design of the architecture, and the space should be incorporated more in the user interface stuff. So this would be an important topic. More creative tools, note-taking, whiteboards, whatever. More of this to write down what you just discussed, to keep in contact, to have something produced together. Very, very important from my side. Reusability. If you do something, you want to use it again or to show it to other people. And a recording of a session of a lecture is not the best way to reuse things. In Engage, it's possible to capture the 3D environment, so everybody how he behaves and what he's talking about, which is very, very interesting. Really replay the whole session, which is interesting, and the design of the environments to make them really customizable things. And this leads me to my more or less final topic, authoring. I would be interested how you do author the content, or are you authoring or just using it as a meetup or whatever. So authoring tools is something that's quite important. So trying to get the next slide. So authoring for us as computer science people, it's frameworks, it's Unity, it's all that stuff, and it's learning the tech is one important thing on our side. So education is not the most important thing in our faculty. So we cooperate with others where the teaching itself is much more important. But this is the sorry for the German, partly German things. So this is a pipeline we have. Probably it's a standard one from computer science people. So my question would be, do you create content? So between I never had on to your left to always, I always do my stuff. Probably the answer is not that clear because sometimes you do it, sometimes you just capture some stuff from else. Sometimes maybe you're able to model things or program things already. So please arrange yourself on the to the seats to your left, or okay. So it's more, never before, Daniel in the middle, and Kuyuki Cookie. So you already produced some 3D stuff. Would be interesting to hear about later. So, or if you can raise your hand, you can always raise your hand, and Serenity will get back to you, and we will answer the question. Okay.
Although at this point we probably need to vacate the space fairly soon, as the next lecture is coming up in a short while.
I think we've got a few more minutes.
Okay, a few more minutes is fine.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So this is a list. I just go through it. This is a list of authoring tools I know of. At least this is a selection. So this is commercial tools for AR, VR stuff. And this is the web-based Amazon Severina. I found it very interesting because it's web-based and really all Unity is used to. And a really nerdy tool is Neos VR, where you have all the stuff that Unity can, but within a 3D environment. Very, very interesting stuff. And I really like CoSpaces. I've been using it for people that haven't been in 3D or modeling programming. I put them in there, and within 2 hours, they have a flow in creating something with it. So there's some programming. I'm always fascinated. People are doing stuff that I would call programming, but they don't call it programming. They just do it, and they arrange things, and that's very, very interesting. We did this before Christmas with people from all faculties, from social sciences and everything, and they did a lot of interesting stuff on climate change, really interesting stuff that is online, can be seen from everybody. So if we now head over, I guess we may head over to the social space. I would be interested to learn about what you're doing, what platforms you're using, what formats and settings you have, so what environments you are in, what are the things that you are struggling with, and the last slide should be, okay, sorry for So, okay.
Okay, everybody,
what the
the
tools are.
social space, there is a portal if you go out the back, out the side door here on the side that I am, where I'm facing. And if you head towards the globe, there is a portal to the left of the globe that you can go to the social space if you go into that portal. In this space next, we have Dr. Atif Mohammed, who is an EdTech and film producer, who will be doing the next lecture actually in this space. For the next session, which is in 12 minutes. Rolf?
Yeah. So
Okay.
thank you for coming and listening. And I don't know where the portal is. You just told us, but I have to follow you, I guess.
Okay, yes.
Okay.
I will show you. Yeah. Can I say we've so enjoyed this. You should hear what's being talked about in our private little Discord here, but we've loved your slides and your presentation. It's been very interesting. We'd love to get a bigger audience for you. It was fantastic. Well done. Can we all show our appreciation, please, for our wonderful speaker here today? Thank you, Rolf.
Thank you. Hopefully
I will show you
talk
where the
to each
portal is.
other now. Yeah,
Yes.
thank you very much. Okay.
So
Thanks.
this way. Audience, if you'd like to go to the portal to talk to Rolf in the social space, that would be excellent. Just round to the right here. Sorry, I've got a phone going off in my room. Educators Social, there's a lovely portal here, just down this little corridor. Can you see that, Rolf?
I can see it, and so probably everybody else can see it.
So just to the right of me. Everybody good? Hi, Diamond.
I'm still seeing my slide deck, yeah.
Me too.
Interesting, because I'm
see
not.
it.
You see it, Michael? Maybe just
I
me.
do.
I might jump in. Tell you what, Michael, I'm going to jump in on my Oculus Rift instead and see if that makes a difference, okay?
Sure.
I'll be right back, guys. Just a
Okay.
moment.
Okay,
You
no
might
problems.
want to try, see if you can click, if you turn around, please. And if you look at the bottom left of the screen, if you click on the bottom left of the screen, are you able to advance? Behind you, on the presentation behind you.
Oh, on the
Click on
presentation.
Yeah, bottom left.
I can't see anything on the bottom left, on the bottom right.
Okay. There, I was just wondering.
There you go, see, I can do something on the, yeah.
Okay, so you're able to control your slides?
Looks like it. But I can't
Okay,
go
can you-
backwards.
You can't go backwards. Okay, let me
No.
come in on the Rift. Let me come in on the Rift. I'll be right
Okay.
back.
Okay.
Hi, Mark. I'm Michael. As I said, the next
Hi,
speaker
Michael.
coming up after you. I'm also part of the organising team for this V-language track or subgroup of this community. So I've got a bit of experience with these slides. If you do have any questions, you can fire away now. I think once you're not, I see it as the web browser version of your presentation as opposed to the kind of control version, which is a bit more kind of user-friendly. Have you had any practice sessions before today?
I didn't, unfortunately. I'm kind of a bit
Okay, no
late to the
problem.
party, so to say.
That's all right. Well, there's no problem at all. When Daniel comes back, I'm just going to mention that to him because he'll know what I'm talking about, and we'll see if we can get you set up with it literally takes 10 seconds with a different link for the presentation, which will give you or somebody else the control to do that. So we'll wait for him to return.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
All right.
Should I be over at the pedestal thing?
No, I can hear you loud and clear because you've got your microphone on, so feel free to walk about and jump in the crowd if you really want to.
As long as they can lift me. I'm a big unit.
Is this your first experience with AutoSpace?
Yeah, very much so. I'm very much an
Wonderful.
AR man, so VR is,
Excellent.
whilst I like it, I'm not, I'm a little bit of a virgin, so.
Okay. I'm happy to be sharing this magical moment with you.
Thank you.
Daniel should be here in a second. Yeah. The good thing is, so how are you navigating through those slides? Are you clicking on the big screen?
Yes, I'm clicking on the big screen on the arrows in the right-hand corner, but
Oh,
the
right, yeah.
back one still takes it forward. So I'm only going forward, which is no bad
Yeah.
thing.
No. Daniel? Who's that rustling around? Is that Daniel? Oh, there he is.
I can see
Flying.
Daniel, he's floating, yeah.
Okay, that's
J-
interesting because I can't see.
Let me just troubleshoot here for you, Daniel. I think maybe the issue, because what I'm seeing is the web browser version of markslides.com. I don't see the kind of the one where he could control, or someone else can, through the, let's say, the controller version, if you get what I mean. Oh, he's disappeared. What I've noticed seems to help people out is if they have somebody else scroll through the slides for them, so
Yeah.
they can kind of relinquish the pressure on someone else, and you can just concentrate on doing what you do best, which is talking about your expertise. So we can do that as a backup. Don't worry. There's
Perfect.
still
Okay.
5-10 minutes.
Excellent.
Who's this? Hi, Lena? Line? You're muted. Line. I think this might be one of the moderators. And there's Daniel there. He's king.
How's it gone so far?
Yeah, really well. It's halfway through There's no going back. If you turn around, it is pointless. You must just keep on swimming. And it's going really, really well. It's just such a wide range of different speakers. And ordinarily, you know, myself, I couldn't really afford paying tickets to travel to these big events out in the US and Asia and places like this. And that's not even talking about the registration fee or actually getting into the building itself. So places like this really are a wonderful opportunity to kind of cross-disseminate ideas. So it's really, really going well. Where are you? It sounds like you're from roughly the same place as I might be. England, London. Whereabouts are you from?
Bristol.
Bristol. Excellent.
So Bristol, yeah. I'm actually down in the VR lab as well. So.
Oh, wonderful.
Down with these boys then.
Great. So we're not too far. Oh, I'm in Italy at the moment anyway, but originally from UK. Well, we've got somebody else into the room here. RKA, can you hear us? This could be a moderator, because guests usually come in 3 minutes before, so I don't think this is someone.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Excellent. Are you a moderator by any chance, or one of the attendees? Right. I'm going to take matters into my own hands if Daniel doesn't come in the next 10 seconds, or a moderator doesn't make themselves known. Any mods out? Oh, there's Daniel.
Hi.
Daniel, let me just say something. The link that was set up, it seems like I can see the bottom of the browser, almost like we're looking at, and actually ordinarily Mark would not be able to move his slides forward with clicking that, only Google Slides. So I don't know if we want to, do you want me to set that up now, a link to the actual slide deck on slides.com? Okay.
Would probably be the name of the session, which is Introduction to Slides, AR Ecosystem, What's in it for Moderators. I think what might have happened is I took it off the master slide deck, hence the reason for that slightly long URL there. I think it was PDF to start with, and then I used the template and added it to that. Or it might actually be a PowerPoint, sorry.
Ta-da!
Fantastic. Sorry, Daniel, I can't hear you. Sorry.
You hear me now?
Yep, I can hear you now.
Lovely. Okay, so first slide, is it?
That's the last slide.
Oh, that's the last slide. Okay, so this then that should be your first
slide.
one. Lovely.
Indeed, it
what
is.
We'll
Yeah.
do, what we'll do if you want to then, in that case, is if you tell me when to change slides, I will do that for you.
Perfect.
Is that okay?
Yeah,
right, lovely.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
then in that case, Mark, pretty much we're ready to make a start of it. Everybody, thank you very much for being here. Who have we got? We've got Mateusz, we've got RKA, Michael, our friend Michael, and we have Amis Liss here. This is Mark Sage of the AREA, which is the Augmented Reality Enterprise Association. Is that correct, Mark?
Nearly. Alliance. Good.
Alliance, my mistake, almost. And you're focused on augmented reality and enterprise, but I think you're going to share with us what we can expect, because at the moment, enterprise is kind of leading the charge, and hopefully they are going to develop the playing field so that us educators can pick up in your trail. So without further ado, please give it up for Mark Sage. Wonderful. And we're going to mute all microphones, and afterwards you'll be free to ask questions. Take it away, Mark. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, everybody. And super excited to be here. I am a virgin in the VR experience, so please bear with me a little bit. My focus, and I've been doing the role as executive director for the area of 3.5 years, is about augmented reality. But regardless if it's virtual or augmented reality, you know, the educators and the teachers like yourself play a important role. So I'm going to be talking about the work that we're doing and where the enterprise AR is, and what we're doing to try and help it, with a focus on the kind of education side as well. So next slide, please, Daniel. Okay, so just a little bit of background of what the area is. As you can read, it's a global membership-funded, not-for-profit alliance. We only focus on enterprise AR. Okay, so there's no VR, there's no B2C, but you know, important to have a very, very clear focus and get to the detail that enterprises and the supporting eco to do to make these solutions successful and you know, bring value. And I'll talk a little bit about the value in the enterprise AR ecosystem. So it's all about creating that comprehensive ecosystem. Thanks, Daniel. So, as I said, it's a membership-funded alliance. We have 3 different segments of members. There are companies that are actually deploying AR at the moment. So you can see the likes of Boeing, ExxonMobil, Bosch. What's interesting from my perspective is there's lots and lots of different industries. There's not particularly one industry deploying solutions. It's right across the board. And to me, that's actually more about the problems that have been solved using reality. We have a bigger group of the providers of solutions. That's hardware, soft, consultancy, gesture control, and a whole bunch of supporting kind of industries and layers. And then the third group, which is really important and probably more relevant to the talk today, bundle it into non-commercial organizations, but it's government agencies, research institutes, organizations, and most importantly, universities. And we're finding a huge amount of benefiting with different universities around the world to actually bring in what they're doing, connect them with industry, allow them to have a kind of a channel to show obviously what they're doing, but more importantly, I think, get feedback for what kind of challenges are industry having and what they can do in terms of their research and their work to overcome. So yeah, 65 members strong. You know, there are a number of organizations that are joining as we saw, and we continue to grow. Next slide, please, Daniel. So just want to take a little bit of where augmented reality is in terms of its life cycle. You probably know, if not, you will see at some stage the Gartner hype cycle curve. And there's an interesting part, again, from an ecosystem and an education perspective to actually see where it's been on its journey. So some of these slides I'm going to show now are probably a little bit difficult to read, but next slide, please. But what you're actually looking at is the red dot. So augmented reality started in the hype cycle curve, and again, this is from Gartner back in 2004. And again, I have to, Daniel, sorry, can you go back the other way? Let me just remember the different parts. Innovation trigger, peak of inflated expectation, trough of disillusionment, okay? If you can help me remember. So we start up in 2000, next slide, sorry, Daniel. Yeah, so before we're in that, peak of it, well, the first one, oh my goodness me, my brain. I think what's interesting, you see it very slowly, year after year, move up the curve until 2007, it disappears completely. Hey guys, what's happened there? Augmented reality as a emerging technology has disappeared. Thankfully, it comes back in 2000, but slowly and surely, we're going up the hype cycle till we get to around 2010, and it's in that disillusionment part. And we've spent a number of years, 2010, 11, 12, Daniel? 13, 14, and then by the time we get to 2015, we're in that trough of disillusionment. What that really means is that the ecosystem has said, hey, yeah, this is a technology that's definitely, but we're not really seeing it moving as fast as we would like, or we're in that, there's been too much hype. As I say, especially in the augmented reality space, not so much in the virtual reality space, but there's been a lot of hype. There's been a lot of kind of companies, individuals expecting a lot, and actually the reality is as great as we thought. So we go into 2007, 2018, and next slide, please. And wow, so in 2000, kind of end of 2019, 2020, we actually allegedly are reaching a mature state. So the reason why I'd just like to show that, it's been a long journey for this technology to go right the way through its maturity bit. And is it completely mature? Well, no, of course, there's still bits we can do, but according to Gartner, augmented reality is now a tech that goes into kind of a different plane, and they start mapping it as an individual bit. So amazing achievement, ideas, and people here and people around the world, thank you for bringing augmented reality into that slightly more mature state. Slide, please, Daniel. So again, just to make sure people are aware, the kind of focusing on in augmented reality in the enterprise space is about improving performance. So it's not about making money, it's often about saving money. So if you can imagine, let's take, for example, it's a different use case, but we're in a manufacturing line now, okay, and someone has to do a kind of complex, they may not be doing it that often. Using augmented reality, and when I talk about augmented reality, a number of different platforms, it can be a mobile phone, it could be a tablet, it could be a wearable, it could even be projection. But getting that information that they need at the time that they need it, so the relevant information in the right format at the right time to allow them to do their work, creates a bot saving for them. At the moment, and I've been on the manufacturing floor and seen this, they will go off, if they do something, they go and find a diagram, or they may fire up a PC and have a look at what to do, even look at a unit. So that's all downtime, that's them taken away from the task. If they can do it in situ and actually see there's a huge amount of time saving. So, having the relevant data, being able to speak to somebody if there's anywhere in the world straight away, if a manufacturing line breaks down, them looks at it and goes, oh, I don't know what's wrong there. Someone has to either call somebody up or even worse, fly over or drive there, and all of that time that manufacturing line is down. So being able to speak to somebody and share what the problems are, and then that expert being able to show them what to do is a huge kind of saving. The thing in some of the industries where real-time compliance is really important. If you take, especially Space is having a few troubles at the moment, and a few of the other ones. When you do a piece of work, you can actually record that work's been done, save digitally, and at the moment it's a paper exercise. Believe you me, they're still putting a rubber stamp on a piece of paper to say they've done the task, and then somebody comes and checks that. And very time consuming, as you can imagine, 2 people doing a job. AR allows you to do that real-time compliant way. So that kind of gives you an idea of some of the benefits that companies are getting and what they're using AR in. Daniel, next slide, please. And ultimately, it's about improving efficiencies. So it's about reducing time, minimizing errors, and lowering costs. At the moment, that's all the bottom line saving for those organizers, and this is why the return on investment, the ROI, is something that's really important, you know, from area and from companies deploy AR, and I'll come back to talk about that a little bit later. Cool, so hopefully you have an idea of some of the kind of use cases and more importantly the benefits that companies are getting using augmented reality. Next slide, please, Dan. And here are some examples of actual companies making some real proper savings. And, yeah, some of these just huge. Newport News Shipbuilding, I know these guys well, they're a member of the area. The great big aircraft carriers that you see on Top Gun, you know, that Top Gun lands on and stuff like that, takes between 7 and 9 years. Now, they're basically big square or, you know, metal rooms that they put together piece by piece. What they're able to do now, previously when they do an internet, go in with a piece of paper and they'd have a look around and make kind of assumptions. Is that in the right place? Is that going there? Importantly, if they have to bring something else into the room, can they actually fit it in? Does that work and stuff like that? You know, it's a real difficult task and needs a lot of skilled, expert workers to do that. What they've done is literally taken what it should look like, they put it up into the space, and if it's correct, it's correct. And they've saved, as you can see, from 36 hours of this inspection time down to 90 minutes, and 96 saving. It allows the workers then to get on with the more complicated stuff rather than doing inspections. See some of the other use cases, training instructions, Boeing's another one of our members, you know, making substantial savings. So I'm really excited about it's solving real life problems and making some real substantial savings for organs. Sorry, Daniel. Oh, and there is if you have a little search on the web, term why every organisation needs an augmented reality strategy. It's a piece of work done by a guy called Jim Hoppelman, who's the CEO of PTC, and also Harvard as review, and something the area has helped in. It's a really great overview of what's going on in the space and the savings companies are making. Sorry, Daniel, next slide, please. Okay, so just to kind of, I'm going to just go through some of this quick and then focus on the educate part. So what we're trying to do in the area is get that thought leadership information out there. At the moment, business decision makers haven't got enough information to make informed, so we're focusing on explaining what problems can be solved. So the use cases, examples of those problems being solved at the case studies, what technologies are needed, and most importantly is that ROI, return on investment. I still believe in both the AR and the VR worlds, we need to be clearer and be able to more about the return on investment. Now, it'll get us more investment into the ecosystem, but also companies buying those solutions. Delivering a lot of thought leadership, a lot of networking, bringing the ecosystem together to learn from each other and stuff like that. But on the educate side, even now, some of our members are struggling to get suitably skilled workers into it. Okay, and you know, we're very early in the ecosystem as well. So what we're doing is working with other educational organizations to be able to basically support them, you know, opportunity to help them define what AR courses look like, what kind of skills and knowledge do those will need. Provide guest lecturing if need be, if that kind of helps. And I'm off to Dublin next week to do another guest lecture, which I'm super excited about. To offer out placements, to offer challenges, you know, and anything to encourage those next set of skilled workers to come into the enterprise AR ecosystem. And then continuing to do, and you know, with help of yourself in organizations like this, being able to be aware of what the area can do and support those kind of challenges. And then one of the challenges from a business perspective is the barriers to adoption. Next slide, please. Let me talk a little bit about the barriers to adoptions. Often they are not technology problems, they're business problems. So one of the things we created is a research committee. The research committee manages a research process. All of the members, hey, what do you need to research? What information, what applied information is really important for you to be able to do your task, okay, to do your job? Everyone gets an opportunity to make a proposal. We do a little pitching session, we do a voting, and then whatever research gets the most votes, the area then funds and delivers. And I've taken a little bit of time explaining that because quite often we look at educational organizations, universities, to provide the kind of the research. You know, it's very much applied research, but as you can see, the kind of things, security in wearables, it's a massive challenge for organizations. You know, they're collecting in an AR environment some kind of important kind of information. If that information is available for everybody, you know, the security is gone. We've had members like Lockheed Martin are working on the next generation kind of submarines. There's no way they're going to have information to be kind of any idea to get out. So, you know, there's a big piece on that. The enterprise calculator I mentioned before is really important, and we're looking again for organizations to bring this online to use it so they can start to plug in not only the cost of delivering solutions, but the benefits they get. It really helps. Sorry, Daniel, could you just move to the next slide? Because I've probably got some.
Say again, Mark, next slide? Or
next slide, yeah, sorry. Yeah, so sorry, there's a kind of next slide. Yeah, so here kind of go into the detail. Now, I think from an education perspective as well, for the kind of students or people interested in this is something we should be teaching them. This is something, you know, it's more than just the technology. The ROI piece, really showing them how it's deployed, you know, the costs, the benefits, and also, you know, understand via the model as well. So this is something, a particular slide in that, I think is something we should be using and teaching our students and teaching the next generation of AR experts. Sorry, next slide, Daniel, please. Actually, and also ROI comes with a few challenges as well, because as we change the way that we deliver projects, the way that we charge for projects, and also more importantly, one of the challenges we see in the AR ecosystem is that the companies aren't actually ready with their digital footprint. A digital transformation could be miles behind. Okay, so when it comes to ROI, or when it comes to doing AR, there's some definite challenges which are over just the technology. It's about the content, the digitization, and stuff like that. So we have a big focus on those kind of challenges as well. Next slide, please, Daniel. I mentioned the security, next one. How am I doing for time, Daniel? I don't want
to... no, you're doing good. It's about 20 past, and you can go for another good 10, 15 minutes if you want, right. And then we'll do questions.
Perfect. Okay. Well, I'm getting towards the end. So this is a really interesting one. When companies are looking to develop AR projects, when it comes to this new technology, there's often a few, what I call in my English and Bristolian accent, kind of requirements that they may not have thought about as they're going through the process because the technology is so new. So, sorry, Daniel, next slide. Oh, sorry, no, go back one. I haven't got it. So really what we're trying to do is map a project and then have a whole bunch of questions or requirements you need to think about in each of the different phases. So let me give you a simple example. Excuse me. If you're trying to do, let's say, step-by-step guidance, but you're in a noisy environment, using voice control may be really difficult. If you're in a bright environment, you're actually using the HoloLens may be really difficult. So it's all of these kind of challenges, these gotchas we've learned from the different members over a period of time, and just having that in a framework, in a format that companies can use really easily and really quickly. Okay, so we find that super useful for companies who are working, either as or companies delivering the technology themselves or enterprises to have this kind of. Next slide, please, Daniel. Okay, another bit, and I think it's again interesting from an education perspective, is look at some of the barriers to adoption, and particularly on the human side. Okay, I'm a great believer that AR and the delivery of AR is just not a project, it's a change management. You've got to win the hearts and minds. Okay, you've got people we've got some fantastic stories of people who've been on the dockyards for 40 years, and suddenly they've got this, this wearable, and they go, I don't want to use that. I've been doing my job for ages. So it's really important we understand some of these challenges. And I, again, think this is something we should be teaching or getting up in, that projects like this are a change management project. So this was actually done this research was done by a university in Munich, who actually interviewed over 500 different companies and really dug into some of the challenges companies have deploying AR, and a lot of them were around that kind of vision and human aspects. Next slide, please, Daniel. One thing we want to do with all of our research is a kind of a reusable tool. So it's really great, not only for, if we look at the educational organizations that often do the research for us, we want something that's reusable. We want something that, it's stuck on a shelf. So this is a nice example we did with the barriers to adoption and manufacturing. It's based on a risk matrix. So you can see you can choose if you're deployed AR or not deployed AR, ask a bunch of questions and use this very simple sliding scale. And what we're really after there is to understand really what are the barriers from a human perspective and also a technology perspective. So we'll have questions in strange things like, is there internet connectivity within the environment? And believe me, everybody has that kind of connectivity. So again, framework tools and things that are reusable is really important to us. Okay, next slide, please. We've done a big piece, and I'll go through this real quick, on IoT AR, understanding that companies need to solve problems. So understanding the whole kind of end-to-end piece here, written research, it basically looked at what's the current status, what kind of challenges to organizations, what needs to happen to make this a reality. And again, I emphasize that in the enterprise space, they are trying to solve problems. Yeah, they're trying to be more efficient or whatever it is. It's not doing work for the sake of doing work. They need to solve problems. So this has been a really interesting piece of research. Next slide, please, Daniel. And then we're just finishing off web AR. What is it? How is it going to benefit? There's a lot of challenges of companies having to create different solutions for different platforms. Is web AR the answer? I don't know. I haven't finished the research, but actually companies like Mozilla and a few other universities are working on this together. And again, one of this will be a piece of code that people can try and test and stuff like that. Next slide, please, Daniel. Okay, one of the other bits, and again, I think it's really important for understanding not so much the benefits, but what you need to do to deploy an AR project is requirements. I know it sounds really strange, but when you start a project in AR, there's nowhere you can go and say, "Need a set of requirements to at least get me started." So this is something we've created. This is something we're kind of working with our educational organizations as well to try and fill in. Next slide, please, Daniel. Make the schema of needs, so you can go from defining use cases at the kind of mid-level, I don't know if this works, right the way down to kind of low-level requirements, things on connectivity, on data integration. And the hope is that any organization, be it a university or an educational organ or an enterprise, can just go in and say, hey, I'm interested in this industry, I'm interested in this use case, download me assignments. It's something I can adapt or build and stuff like that. So, that's something we're working on. Still needs quite a bit of support to move this forward. Daniel, next slide. Real quick, 3 other kind of committees. These are monthly meetings. We've done a big piece on human factors of universities that are heavily involved in that, as well as organizations. So this is all about the UX and UI. My personal kind of feeling is we're still designing AR experiences from a kind of a 2D, not 3D. You guys in the VR world have kind of cracked it to a certain extent. The AR world, I don't think has. Mentioned security. Safety is another big one as well. So Again, these are committees where we're actually talking about the challenges and creating a set of deliverables to help us overcome them. Next slide, please. Here's an example of something we've done in the safety committee, again, looking at wearables, but basically what are the risks of wearables in an enterprise kind of environment, but also what are the benefits? See a whole bit, there's a bit about cognition or cognitive in there as well, and sensory stuff that it's relevant to the VR world as well. But this has been really interesting exercise, and what we're doing now, because it's into detail, is taking each of these lozenge shapes and adding more detail to it. So it could be a white paper research, it could be a case study or a video. So it's really about getting into the level of detail, and we find it's needed for organizations to be successful. Next slide. Phew. That, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully gives you an idea of what's going on in the AR ecosystem, potential idea of the kind of work that we're doing to work with the educators of the world. You know, I thank you for you do, but we got to continue to kind of push on and stuff like that. Daniel.
Mark, thank you so much. Fantastic. That was wonderful. I feel like I've had an expert induction into the state of enterprise AR. Thank you so much, and your slides are all amazing. I've been making furious notes here because so much of what you've said I wanted to pick up on, if you don't mind. So I'm going to have a bit of a discussion with you first, and then we'll open questions up. So let me just look at my notes here. Let me have a look. Right, so the AREA is an international alliance, is that correct?
Correct, it's a global alliance, and you can call it
a global,
that helps.
A planetary, interplanetary alliance. Yeah.
Interplanetary,
yeah. I was interested, you said that you were a VR virgin. You would not have known. You're an absolute natural doing this. How was that experience for you, Mark?
Yeah, it's been great. I absolutely love the kind of environment.
Yeah.
I'm a glasses wearer, and I've still got a few issues with that, but apart from that,
sure.
I think it's spectacular.
Sure.
I'm a fan of VR in the enterprise space. It has the right use cases, like anything, and we're seeing some real traction of companies, you know, doing some great stuff in VR. Absolutely.
Yeah, we
love the solutions.
We've had a number of talks and people express or discuss the idea of a killer app for immersive technologies, and I think there's kind of a consensus at the moment that at least something that could become a killer app, or already is, we don't know, is education and training in VR and for augmented reality. So, but yeah, just for those of you watching, if you don't know, is it right to say, Mark, that you only put a VR headset on this week? Your first time?
On Tuesday.
On Tuesday. Yeah. That's amazing, because you delivered that like it was your second nature. Really, really impressed. Cool as a cucumber.
Oh, thank you.
I have a question. The cost of AR headsets for non-enterprise is still quite prohibitive. What's the ratio of in enterprise of companies adopting mobile AR, so tablet-based phone or tablet-based AR solutions versus smart glasses? Is there a big push towards smart glasses, or is it still mostly mobile devices?
I would say the kind of successful deployments tend to be more on the tablets, on a tablet side. People are kind of, you know, and again, to be clear, on the kind of wearable side, I think that there are two distinct different types of solution, okay? You have what we call the assisted reality, okay? So it's not a kind of an augmented, basically taking, there's a few companies, one of the companies are a member as far as RealWear, say it's a tablet on your, okay? So you get the simple kind of features you can use with a tablet, but you can use your hands, and remember that's the impact in the enterprise space, is being able to use your hands to do tasks. So there's a bunch of those Google Glass, there's a few other Vuzix and stuff like that, and then you get the kind of augmented reality space. So that's the HoloLens, the Magic Leap guys, and again, different kind of use cases, different problems being solved. But I would say bigger deployments at the moment are still more on the tablet side and the mobile.
Yeah, not surprising. Not surprising. Is it mainly cost? Is that mainly the reason why? Or content?
Slightly
I don't
cost. It's, well, I think you still get the content issues with the tablet, so that still needs to be done. I think it's not comfortable. Some of the devices, you wear them for a long time, battery lives and things like that. So there's different issues that we're seeing. But people, even intrinsically safe is another kind of issue as well with these tablets. Are they intrinsically safe?
I heard an analogy. I think, who was it? I think it was Matt Chacon of Rumi from Doghead Simulations speaking earlier. And he likened the stage we are at the moment, or maybe it was Alvin Graylor. He likened the stage we're at the moment with VR headsets to the time when, just before the first Apple iPhone. So for us early adopters, I'm super happy with where we're at, but the thought leaders seem to agree that we're kind of just before we find the smooth plug and play device. He said he said. We don't have the App Store yet. We don't have that ubiquitous content and developers developing like crazy. Would you agree with that in the AR space as well?
Yeah, to a certain extent. I think in the enterprise AR space, it's more important to get the content within the enterprise systems. Yeah. So whilst they can have applications that overarch, what the challenge or the user want to deliver, one of the issues we have is getting that content. So there's a number of companies that are taking CAD diagrams as a great example, but they're massive, and then be able to get them into a situation where they can be used for AR is a challenge, and there's actually companies just focusing on that at the moment. So I agree the kind of App Store analogy is really interesting. I think that's very relevant to the consumer, relevant to the enterprise to a certain extent, but there's additional challenges of using the content that by those enterprises and being able to enable that for AR.
Okay, I have a couple of more comments. Right. I love the AR calculator you've put together. That seems like quite a powerful tool, and I would love to know if you know of an equivalent in the VR space, because a lot of our members have been asking, Daniel and Laurel, we're interested in VR and we want to approach our organizations, our schools, colleges, universities, but we're having a hard time making the case on the financial side. And I think I was, just as you were talking earlier, I was thinking about this whole conference, and it's been a 6-day conference, and I'm just thinking if I had to fly anywhere and take part in a 6-day conference, by the time I've left home and got home, it would be £2,000 or £3,000 easily.
Oh, easily, yeah.
Right? For £2,000 or £3,000, you can almost buy a HoloLens 2. You can buy PC VR. You can buy several Oculus Quests. And once you've gone to that conference, you then have to come back home and that conference is over. But you buy some equipment like this and plug into a virtual reality conference, you can do it again and again and again. So once you start thinking like that, the cost savings are actually there. You don't have to argue for return on investment. You can say savings on investment. It's almost like that. But my question originally was, are you aware of a cost calculator equivalent for VR?
The simple answer is no. So I do a little bit of work with the Immersive UK guys, and they've asked the question there. To me, the use case, the real fantastic use case in VR is for, and in the enterprise space, is for their staff to experience things that wouldn't be a good idea to experience in real life. Right. Okay, I don't know if you're the Vodafone guy who was on about the heights. I love, my favorite one's the nuclear power going up. Nobody wants nuclear power. So those kind of use cases are good. And I think if you work on that, the ROI is relatively simple to work out. Yeah. So the secret is, my advice is to really focus down on the problem that you're solving, and I think I can be creative. The other bit of advice is, and I do a lot of kind of moderating in events. When I talk about ROI, I talk about the tangible, but also the intangible benefits, the kind of things that you didn't know, but And that's anything, you know, a whole bunch of different things, but people coming up with new ways to solve the comes, people experiencing things that they hadn't experienced before, and just, you know, there's a whole bunch of tangible benefits which are difficult to monetize, but if you develop them within the business case and talk about senior management, is a real, really important step.
Wonderful. Just on that note, do you think, maybe it's a bit ambitious, but just I'll put it out there, do you think the people who have developed the AR calculator would be interested in talking about trying to develop something similar, or is it not necessary? Do you think we can do without it, really?
I think it's a little bit more difficult. What we're talking about is people's sort of time saving a lot of the time.
Right.
So it's easier to measure. So our process through the research projects is we create a specification and we do an RFP and RFI. Okay, so it's actually a company based in Boston called Strategy Analytics that did the calculator. You know, as they said, the ROI piece is actually not difficult. Okay. Yeah, the model itself, you know, you have to put different currencies in and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You've got a cost, you've got a business benefit bit. It's really nailing what are those benefits. So to me, if you can bring a group together to talk about the benefits parts and really kind of start to get a set of benefits that you could use that are relevant across the actually building the ROI model's not that difficult. So my suggestion would be, if you can create a group, again, it's something you could use a whole different range of organizations to do. Start thinking of what those benefits are and how you can monetize them, or how they look from a financial perspective.
Wonderful, wonderful. I think all of my questions. Thank you so much, Mark. I'm going to see if anyone else here wants to ask you something. I'm just going to switch on the allow the audience participation, which means now if anybody does have a question, you can click the raise hand button. Michael, do you want to ask Mark anything, or Mateusz? We've got your friend Dan here from the Bristol VR Lab, I can see. Lovely. Anyone want to ask Mark a question while we've got this expert here on stage with us? Okay, that's all right. Well, I think we're going to let you go, Mark, but I hope you had a good experience with us, with Educators in VR, and I can only thank you for sharing your wonderful expert insight into this field. I look forward to staying in touch with you. Just a heads up, our college, or the college I work at, Coleg Menai up here in North Wales, I'm about to purchase 2 HoloLens 2s as soon as they get released. And I would love to see if there's any way for our college to, I don't know, either become a member or maybe test and trial some of the content, you know, that's out there before we commit. That's kind of the process we're in at the moment. So hope it's okay if I stay in touch with you.
Of course, no, absolute pleasure. It'd be great. And even come on up and, you know, have a more detailed conversation about some of the stuff as well. So
wonderful. Thank you so much. All right, please, everybody, give some love and applause and appreciation for our expert guest, Mark Sage from the AREA. And Mark, have a great time in Bristol. Enjoy your day. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much.
Oh, if you want to, we have, can somebody open a portal, Jay, maybe to the social room or the VIP room? If you want to, Mark, we have another space behind the scenes where people can hang out. I'm not sure how busy it will be because the time zone in America means that most people are in bed right now. But it's up to you. It's up to you. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you.
All right,
I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Okay, great. All right. Oh, we had. Yeah, sorry. If you're still here, Mark, we do have a question here. Let me see. Are we okay to take it?
Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah, absolutely.
Lovely. I just saw your question come up there, Mateusz. Do you want to ask the question?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. I actually I was wondering about the hype cycle slides that you had before, and it kind of seems similar to the hype cycle that I've seen for VR with the drought of disillusionment around 2016, and now. So I'm not really sure because I've not seen any bad press regarding the AR, or maybe it's just that I'm more focused on VR. Have you seen any bad press? Because it seems like it's like a prerogative for the next stage of the hype cycle, where you get the where you kind of get the services and you get out of the drought of disillusionment. So did you like? Do you think that it's already we're past the drought of disillusionment for AR as well?
Well, yeah, sorry. So according to Gartner, we are. Yeah, go on.
Because I've noticed that VR seems to be, some people like assume that it's like maybe 2 or 3 years ahead in terms of that hype cycle, right? So, so I'm just wondering if there's any parallel, if you see any connection between the VR hype cycle and AR hype cycle.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think it's an interesting question. I still believe there's a real difference between VR and AR and the problems that they're solving. So whilst a lot of people kind of bundle everything together, and I can understand because there's kind of similar technologies, the problems that you solve are completely different often. So I think there's tracking one against the other is probably not the right way of doing it. I think in terms of the hype cycle, as I mentioned, we're kind of out of that hype. The issues to me is whilst we're getting some great wins and companies showing some real performance improvements, there's still some companies that are not doing so well or have left the industry. Look at the likes of Thackeray and ODG and stuff like that. So it's a challenging space. I would say it's the hardware side. The volume piece is not there, and maybe until we get into consumer market, we'll have millions of devices sold, but it's still challenging, I think, for certainly the hardware.
Okay.
Hopefully
Thank you for
helps.
that. I think Matthias dropped out then. That's unfortunate. I did have another question now. I remember. Sorry, Mark, while I've got you here.
Yeah.
There's a company, you must be aware of the company called Nreal, making smart glasses. And I personally, I don't have a very big use case for tablet-based or phone-based AR. I'm really waiting for consumer-grade AR smart glasses to come through. And do you... 1 or 2 years? Can I hope in the next year or two that we'll get consumer grade AR glasses like Nreal or someone else? Do you know of any movers in the industry?
I do. If you're looking at the consumer market, I really like North.
Yes.
So it's a company, very kind of lightweight, easy to wear kind of glasses. What they're focusing down now are the services. So the step-by-step direction, and I'm talking from a consumer, so kind of mapping things, Uber, getting alerts on your kind of glasses and stuff like that. I wonder we'll probably go through that cycle like we've done with the wearables and watches and stuff like that, but certainly North, there are a couple of other kind of smaller companies that are bubbling under. I'm with you, I'm really looking for, I still think, a year, 12 months, we'll see. Maybe us as the early adopters can get our hands on, but we're probably looking, 2 years before we get something which is a bit more mass market. It'll be a bumpy ride, as it still is with the wearable devices, watches, just from a practical perspective.
Yeah, okay. Again, thank you so much, Mark. I've probably taken up more than enough of your time. Enjoy your morning.
Enjoyed it. Thank you very much, guys.
Lovely.
Really enjoyed it.
All right,
Thank you. Thank you. Cheers. Goodbye. Bye.
Hi, Daniel.
Hi there. Hi, Donna. How's it going?
I'm good. So how did this session go?
It went really well. As far as?
And so I heard some of the content, and that part of the presentation was great. I'm interested in the sound and the and the slides? Did you have problems with either of them?
The sound was mostly okay. That was my experience, and the slides were very smooth. I entered the URL into the browser here. I've got the slide deck presenting live on my laptop, and it's working very smoothly.
Okay, so for the rest of the night, we're trying something different today, and we're trying
Okay.
to embed the link for the slides right into the event.
Mm-hmm.
And so we did that at the last session, and it worked really well.
Okay.
So I'm going to, for the two that are happening now, I'm
Yes.
going to do the same. And I'm kind of tracking, I'm trying to give Altspace a report by the end of the night, just
Yes.
like what happened during the night when we were trying to do this.
Yes.
So we'll see how that works. One
Okay.
thing that I did notice is that all three events, like right now, since the big event,
Yes.
since the big event, there's been 3 events,
Right.
and all 3 of them had less than 20 people.
Yes.
And all 3 of them had no sound issues.
Excellent.
So
Oh, so you're saying it might be to do with the amount of people in the room?
I'm wondering if that has
Uh-huh.
anything to do with it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. What do you think? I don't know.
The other thing I'm noticing, this looks like a different slide. This is like not a slide, but you know what I'm saying? It looks like a projector screen that's coming down. I never noticed that in the other rooms. Did you?
Yeah, that's what
Yeah,
they
it's
all are. They're the
yeah,
same.
it's been similar. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's just the asset that they're projecting it onto, I think. Okay, you might be right, Donna, but I'm not sure what we would do if the sound issues is to do with the number of people in the room. Then we can feed that back to Altspace, but I'm not sure what we would do about that.
Oh, for sure. And I'm just tracking it. Like, I'm just giving them
Yeah.
data so
Yeah.
that
No,
I'm
no.
sharing with you a personal thought, right? But
It makes sense to me. It makes sense to me that the more people you have in the space, the more load and strain there is. Absolutely, yeah. For example, now, were you speaking just then?
oh yeah.
Because now I'm having a bit of sound issues. If
and
people are speaking.
Am I distorted?
No, you weren't distorted. You just sounded like you had gone quiet, and that the avatars were kind of jumping like this rather than moving smooth. It felt like they were doing plump, 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 plump kind of thing.
Yeah, okay.
But now it seems smooth. Now it seems smooth.
Well, I find that I have to re-enter on my 2D with my computer.
Yeah.
I have to get through pretty much every 3 minutes, or I personally have issues, but that's just me.
Right. Okay. Well, we'll see how it goes. I think next.
I'm in Canada.
Okay.
I'm in
East Coast?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. All right.
No, the other side. Yeah. The
All
other
right.
side. Okay.
So
Dave,
you're up early.
to the other room.
Lovely. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll talk to you later. Are you sticking around for a while?
I'm doing a bunch more. Just a second. Let me just see what's up next.
Yeah. Hi. Hello.
I want to try something different with you tonight, Michael. I want to
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Do I need alcohol?
I'm going to be right back.
Hello.
Okay? I'll be right back.
Okay. Sorry, everybody. Did I walk in on something? I was just about to prepare my slides.
That's okay. That's absolutely fine. How are you, my friend Michael? Quite an event we're running here, isn't it?
Yeah, sorry, I've...
Absolutely. How is everybody doing? How's everybody doing? Everybody feeling
Can
good
we
in
have
here?
some emoji, please?
Yeah, let's have an
There we
emoji
go.
fest. Come on, it's early in the morning here in the UK. Never enough emojis. Wonderful. Mateusz there. Who we got? We got Sula. Gonna add you as a friend there. Who else have we got? We got Horrible Aim. That sounds like you teleport a lot by accident. All right. Bakery Bob, Kevin Han. Who else we got up there? Michael in the corner. Right. We're going to be resetting the room in just a moment, so if you go black, you'll come right back. Don't worry about it. Small Holly, hi there. Good friend Jay up in the corner. Right, Griffin, adding you, and there you go. All right. Are you resetting, Michael?
Oh, is that me doing that? Sorry. Right, here we go.
No, I don't know who was doing it. I don't know who was doing it. Well, okay.
No, I think...
Doesn't matter.
I don't know if I have the capability to do that, reset the room.
That's okay. I mean, it's looking good. I don't see the need to reset right now.
Well...
Because your slides are up, aren't they? And I'm seeing them on... Oh, wait.
I can see them.
Right.
Can everybody see the main slides there, the introductory slide? If you can, just give us some positive emojis. Good. Okay. Excellent. That's a good start. Now I'm going to try to be adventurous now. I'm going to move to slide 3. Not 2, and I'll tell you why in a minute. And hopefully you can see that move. So here we go. Can you see slide 3? Yeah. Okay. It's already a success.
Wonderful. Yeah, looking good. And just to let everybody know, we're live on YouTube now as well. So as many of the sessions as possible that we have been running here for the conference are currently being streamed to YouTube so that they're available for future reference and for sharing with your colleagues or friends. We do have to go back into YouTube and kind of label the sessions. That's something we haven't been doing as we go. So it might be a little bit difficult to find them for now, but hopefully as soon as possible, we'll go back in, label the sessions in terms of the lectures that they contain, make them more easy to find. All right, we've got 5 minutes till we go. Who's next, Michael? Who's up next? Oh, it's you. It's you, isn't it? It's your session.
It is.
Of course, that's what I'm excited about.
For you.
No, absolutely. I've been looking forward to this, my friend.
I tell you, we started off today, didn't we, over here in Europe, listening to the likes of Alvin Wang Grayling, Matt Cohen, you yourself, of course, Dr. Sana Farid. So I feel like, I'm kind of like the late night act. Most people kind of gone home and...
Hard to follow, isn't it?
That's it.
It's morning and it feels like the day's already old.
You're right.
Yeah, I know what you
it's
mean.
kind of merging into one. So we've got a few... So you're in Europe, Daniel. I'm in Italy. You're in... Where are you? Wales, Daniel? Is that where you are?
I'm in North Wales, Snowdonia National Park.
Excellent.
Beautiful.
Wonderful.
It's crazy because actually one of the headquarters for this whole conference is in a house in the middle of a field on the side of a mountainside in the north of Wales, and the other headquarters is in the middle of the forest in Portland, Oregon, in West Coast America. So to be able to run this kind of an operation from your desk anywhere is phenomenal. I'm just trying to still get my head around what this is. I want to say a couple of words about you, Michael, for those people in the audience that maybe don't know. But Michael joined us. When did you join? When did we meet, Michael? Educators
about 9
VR.
months ago, maybe.
Yeah, about not. Well, probably find you. Yeah, friends for 6 months. So, but we've been interacting before that, and Michael is doing some absolutely outstanding innovative work in language learning VR. He's going to tell you about it, I'm sure, today. But we were so impressed by the way he operates, and in particular, Michael, can I say the way you operate across platforms and across groups and networks. I'm super impressed with that. We were so impressed with him that we asked him if he would like to collaborate, and he became our very first what we call track leader. And so Michael went on the Discord, on Twitter, and LinkedIn, and kind of is bringing the community around language learning in VR together like nobody else. He's kind of really created a template, and off the back of that template and the work you're doing, Michael, we were so confident in that this might work. We brought on then Dana Maria, who's leading the V coaching and personal development track now. We have Tim Jackson and Anna, who are kind of leading our diversity track. We're developing more and more tracks as we go. So I just want to personally thank you for that achievement and that effort, Michael, that you've put in. Wonderful, wonderful work.
Yeah, thanks.
No, really.
I know it's a cliche, but when you like what you do, it comes easier to you, especially when you're trying to manage that around a day job and just general teaching and kind of life events and stuff. And it is a cliche, but it's absolutely true. And this is why these events are great, because it gathers people that maybe couldn't afford to kind of go to global events, as I put out on social media recently. And plus
it's a great equalizer.
Green. That's right.
Yes,
you're right.
I love that. My wife is an activist, and she's also a toy manufacturer. She creates giant bubble toys. Dr. Zig's giant bubbles are some of the most amazing toys you're going to ever find. But she's also an activist. So for her company, when she's manufacturing toys, she's always looking for ways to reduce plastic consumption, ways to encourage recycling, ways to engage with community. And I'm actually going to be collaborating with her on a project where she's going to show the work she's doing with her company. And she wants to start creating immersive content and stuff like that. And she loves the fact that this conference is green. And I mean, it's so timely as well. She's very much involved with Greta Thunberg and the XR, so Extinction Revolution. It's quite interesting that the timing of the name of Extinction Revolution, for those of you who are aware of it, the acronym, of course, is XR. And here we are in XR talking about XR. It's quite an interesting overlap there. And of course, the timing of the coronavirus and the Mobile World Congress being cancelled. I think Alvin van Grelen was saying that all conferences in China have been cancelled, all of them across the board. And here we are delivering this. It's not a concern. We can operate here in a way that you just can't in the real world. So I'm quite confident we'll be seeing more of this.
It's funny you say that because, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, anyone out there as well, but when you learn a new word or you hear a new word or you hear about some new singer or something, and it seems like it kind of crops up again and again after you've heard it. It's like, well, I wasn't conscious of that before. And whether it's good or, if for good reasons or bad, of course, kind of pandemics and things are, like Alvin said earlier, they are in some ways forcing us, nudging us into that direction of seeking alternative ways to connect, good or bad situations. So, either way, it's a big experiment, and I'm happy to have everyone here again to kind of feed back on this. And that's really important for what you said about the community, because everybody's welcome. Discord is the channel we meet. It's not on there, but it's discord.me/educatorsinvr. Come along, join a conversation, because we're here for a week, but actually there's 51 other weeks in the year where the conversation continues.
Absolutely. And we have 700 plus members on the Discord, each one of them who are people like you, grassroots community. These are educators in, with maybe one headset or just a laptop interested. We have researchers, we have developers, we have educators, teachers, trainers, we have enterprises. So, please join the Discord, like Michael said. But enough of this, Michael. As much as I love chatting with you, this is your stage. Please give it up for Michael McDonald of Gold Lotus. We're going to hear about his work with languages in VR. Thank you very much. Take it away, Michael.
Thanks, Daniel. Yeah, and if at any point during this presentation I disappear or freeze, know that to my right here I've got the second Oculus Go ready and charged. So just mingle amongst yourself. So there's the bar over there in the back left corner, and the toilets are on the right. So you're looking now at the main side, and again there have been a few teething problems in this inaugural summit, but no problem, it's all part of the fun. If you can't see anything or something's going wrong, just send some sad faces, and I'll assume it's not anything I'm saying. We've already got someone waving their hands. Horrible aim, are you okay? So, right, this is another thing. Raise hand button. If you look everybody down to your bottom right, you can see raise hand. Horrible aim. Can you click that for us, and I can give you the megaphone and see what's going on, and we can maybe help you out before I crack on. So here we go. Horrible aim. You now have the power to speak.
I just cannot see any slides. It's just all black on the screen.
Maybe re-enter. Don't reset the space. Horrible aim. Try re-entering, my friend.
All right, we'll do.
Okay. Because, is everybody else seeing the slides? Okay. Can we have some emojis for slides? Yeah. If most of the people are seeing the slides, then it's just an individual user.
Excellent. Blood pressure lowering again. Excellent. Good. Right. We are now. Yeah. Of course, this is it's 12 o'clock in Europe right now. You're back in the room. Can you see that? I hope so. If not, I'm just going to keep talking. I'm sorry about that. It's probably your end, but I can send you the slides after. Friend me. I'll send you an email. Yeah, my name's Michael McDonald, originally from London, UK, currently living in Italy. I've been out here for a few years now, and I teach English as a foreign language, so that means teaching the language I speak natively to people who either have not grown up speaking English, maybe live abroad as well, and don't get that kind of access to the language as well. So that's where I'm coming at it from. I'm not a speech therapist. I don't really understand the methodologies or the research behind how to teach babies their native language. It's not what I'm talking about today. So if that's what you're expecting, I apologise. So next slide is an important one and something which really reflects why I'm standing here today. And dental floss. Oh, dental floss. So good I said it twice. Now, hopefully you can see that. Now, dental floss is an important word for me. The German word, as Daniel will know, is Zahnseide. And that was the first word, after studying German for 10 years, that I learned in Germany in context. I'd studied German for many years, went to university, studied German, and then, but it was always using textbooks and maybe YouTube videos and stuff like that in the latter part of my course. But when I first arrived in Germany for my year-long work program, I was on the train going to the city centre from the airport, and it was the first word that I naturally absorbed in the context, in the environment, on the train. It was an advertisement above the person opposite me, and it was advertising dental floss. And I'll never forget that because it was just kind of really such an insignificant word, but in the context I was able to learn that particular word, and it was kind of really refreshing, such a vivid experience, both linguistically and emotionally, just to be surrounded by the language, seeing different words and hearing things, and also smelling, you know, the kind of the sausages as I walked through the centre is another thing I remember, and also the techno music, which seemed to be banging out in every store front, which seemed to be really popular at the time. And it's that kind of physical experience that really I really want to hold on to as we move into this next chapter of education, because I don't want to lose that. I want to arrive at a point, either in the virtual world where we can recreate those amazing experiences, or nudge people to take off the headsets and go to Germany, go to France if you're learning French, or anywhere else, and do that. It's the end goal is not to have this plastic thing on my face for 24 hours a day. It's to nudge you to particular experiences that's going to improve your life and make it a bit more colourful maybe. So when we consider virtual reality, immersive technology, you know, and the place it could have then for language learners and teachers, let's not forget those as well. We really need to understand the pain points first, because it's pointless walking into the classroom with a headset, Oculus Go, whatever it is, and saying, there you go, students, now you can learn English in a contextual, immersed way. It's not about that, of course. We need to understand what is the problem first and foremost. And for many people, as you can see here, and I'm not naming names, but this is just taken from just some of the websites when you Google English language courses in London, and that's what a lot of people pay good money to go to. You know, people I work and live with out here in Italy, they spend good money going to the UK for a couple of weeks in the summer to learn English. Again, there's nothing wrong with that, not a criticism, but it's going to cost you a few quid, as we say in England, and it certainly isn't cheap. You've got course fees, you've got booking fees, some of them might not be refundable. So these are just some of the barriers that people face. And moving on to the next slide, you know, of course, that's without even talking about the flights, the airport transfers, accommodation, the food. If you're in London, you're going to want to have some fish and chips at some point, and then course books, non-refundable deposits, and travel insurance as well. So these are some of the barriers, and it's really important that we consider and reflect continuously on what those are in order to plan the next phase, which is, well, how can we address those? And does VR have a place in addressing those as well? Because maybe it doesn't. We need to find out. So we move to the next slide, and mind the gap. Now, can I get some emojis? Has anyone been to London before? Get some heart. There we go. With some smiley faces. Good. Well, if you've been to London, if you've grown up in London like I did, or in the suburbs at least, this kind of announcement of a customer service announcement, please mind the gap. You know, you're hearing that every time you get on the tube, and it's kind of one of those famous things that you would see when you travel to London. Mind the gap. And I kind of think of life like that with regards to language teaching and learning. You know, you've got the train, which is taking you to your destination, whether that be, you know, a course you want to study abroad. It could be a particular English language or any foreign language examination that you need to get to take your personal or professional life to the next level. But you're standing there on the platform, and there's that gap in between that could cause you problems if you don't, you know, do the right things in your learning to prepare for those future destinations. And it's something that I really try to reflect on constantly again, and I'll open up the floor soon to the questions because I really want to hear what you think. But as a teacher, when I'm standing there in front of many different students, either in the physical world or in VR, I think it's all about, first of all, understanding as a teacher, well, what are the problems of those individual people in context, and how can I help them? And if I don't know how to help them, who can I connect them with in order to get them the help that they need? So that is another thing that we need to bear in mind. And, you know, I guess you can kind of see the theme of this presentation because there's an awful lot of wonderful events going on as part of this international summit. But what I really try to do is maybe play the devil's advocate because, you know, maybe we should sometimes slow down, stop a little bit and look back and say, okay, well, where are we now with this technology? What can it do? What is it achieved so far in the language learning sphere? And what do we need to avoid as well? So when we think about that, I guess a good start as well, and you know, my eyes were open to the kind of the evidence base of language learning a few years ago. You know, I'm out there in the field, as many of you maybe are, and I'm not an academic in kind of inverted commas. Yes, I went to university, but I didn't really understand fully the research methodology and, you know, actually what's the evidence behind what I'm doing in the classroom, which is another thing we need to bear in mind as well. So, you know, this is just one research paper that was published a few years ago by the MIT Fluid Interfaces Lab, if I remember correctly. And what they did, they incorporated kinesthetic learning within the language learning experience. Now, what that means is physical movements to support the way that people learned particular vocabulary in English, and I think they did it in Spanish as well, or it possibly primarily was Spanish. I'll have information for you later. I can Google that. But anyway, it's people learning a foreign language, and what they were doing, they were in this virtual kitchen, one group of the students, and they were cutting physically the vegetables and the food in the kitchen, and they were having that kind of physical experience with the language learning, and they were learning the words at the same time, chopping, cutting, boiling, etc. There was another group who were in the virtual kitchen, but they were not using their hands to cook, so they were kind of more passively absorbing the language in the virtual world. And then there's a third and final group, the control group, which were people learning words on basically good old-fashioned paper-based materials. And what was found after a week of exposure, so what they did these experiments. A week later, they went back, and the people who had used the kinesthetic, physical movements to cut and chop the carrots in the virtual kitchen had retained the vocabulary in the same way, to the same level as those people who had used the paper-based materials. So what does that tell us? Well, it tells us that actually the physical movements in VR and making use of the space can have a positive effect when compared to more passive experiences. However, we also learned something interesting, which is and maybe this isn't a great advert at this stage for VR, but what we know now is that, thanks to this experiment, is that actually it's equal to the paper-based learning as well. So as an educator, you know, we need to be mindful of that. We need to question, well, okay, is that, you know, if I want to use the technology in the language learning classroom, does it have a place in that particular way that people learn? Obviously, we need to do more investigation in that, but definitely check out that research study. And another one I want to draw your attention to, and I can't speak Portuguese, so I'm not even going to attempt to say this chap's surname, but I know his first name's Bruno, and this was only last year. This was increased student and teacher motivation. And we think of these virtual spaces, it's all about communication. It kind of nudges us to communicate and talk. And that's one of the wonderful things that, particularly for language learners, that gets them out of that comfort zone. However, listening, reading and writing are also skills, the key skills that language learners need to build at the same time. And this particular research involved people in informal and formal situations. Sorry for the poor quality image, but no prizes for which situation is the informal situation. It's the one with the bottle of beer on the table. And what they did, they And they had these different situations, and it was building people's listening skills in various kind of role plays. And the outcome of this research, if I remember correctly, was that people who listened in VR to these experiences, as opposed to the stereo, the kind of how could we say it, the more traditional method of listening via a CD, something like that, they were just much more engaged, and the teachers were also more engaged in using this technology as well. So definitely check that out, and that kind of, again, makes us remember the fact that we need to build all of those skills of foreign languages: reading, writing, listening, and of course the speaking. So we move now to the next slide, just checking the time. We've got lots of time available. I'll tell you what, I'm about kind of a third of the way through. Have you got any questions at this point? Am I talking too fast? Am I sending you to sleep? Raise your hand if you've got any questions at this point, or we can just take some questions at the end. I'm happy to have a little pause there. No? Okay, no problem. All right, fine. We move to the next slide, which is talking a little bit more now about, actually that slide is, there we go. The research that I'm involved with at the moment, now Gold Lotus, just to explain, this is a consultancy that I set up in southern Italy. I felt a kind of a vehicle through which to channel these experiments that I'm getting involved with, the VR language learning. And I chose the lotus flower, not because I'm a Buddhist, not because I've spent any time in an Asian country, but basically it reflects the fact that, and we're going to get philosophical here now, but basically any student, no matter their situation, no matter their circumstances, the muddy waters in which they might be studying in, the difficulties, the barriers that they might be faced, as we saw at the top of this presentation, anyone has the possibility to rise up from that and effectively, become the person they want to be. And I'm seeing that in the last few years with VR, how that is really supporting people, getting them outside their comfort zones, and also importantly, we'll touch on this later, is giving them the possibility to practice the language in context, in situ, in virtual reality, before they go then into the real life situations. And for me, learning German in the past and also Italian, I never had the opportunity to do that until, of course, I bought the plane ticket to go to that country in which they spoke the language. But now, thanks to VR, we can create these immersive environments where you almost feel like you're there with the native speakers as well. So that's Gold Lotus, that's what I'm about, collaborating with University College London's Institute of Education, and also the AVR Lab, which is out in the University of Salento in southern Italy, in Lecce. So whenever people ask me where that is, I kind of say, Italy looks like a boot. Well, and they say, yeah. I say, well, I'm in the hill. And they say, oh, yeah, that's where you are. So that's basically where I am. And that's where that AVR lab is based at the University of Salento. And we're collaborating on this project funded by UCL to explore the way that these collaborative environments can, such as Allspace, Rumi and Engage, but actually we're focusing on this research with Rumi in particular by doghead simulations, and we're looking at how collaborative VR environments can support the way that students build their skills with tasks, pedagogical tasks. So what that means is, instead of learning kind of language with a textbook, which does have a place, I'm not knocking it, I'm not criticizing it, I'm just suggesting alternatives here. Instead of learning language by rote, vocabulary list and stuff like that, task-based language learning is about creating situations where the language has an objective, a goal and a meaning. So for example, you need to buy a train ticket. If you can make yourself understood in that situation, then you are in some ways succeeding in the task. It's not always about kind of focusing on the form and the correct grammar and everything like that, which of course does have a place, but it's about the communicative aspects, and that's what we're exploring. So check out that research if you're interested. It's goldlotus.co. Take a look at the blog. There are a few articles which we like to keep people updated with. And actually, if the video is going to work, I can show you. That's going to autoplay. So if you can't see that, give me some sad faces. There might be a slight delay or stutter for some of you. It's a minute long. So this is a colleague of mine at the lab in a church that's 1,300 years old. Archaeological representation of what it would have looked like. That's refreshing for me. I hope everybody else is moving forward. And we're standing in this church, which we resurrected in VR, and which we'll be using with students around Europe to immerse themselves in and share a little bit about their local cultural heritage, but learning English at the same time. And that's what we're doing. So that's Doriana, one of her colleagues there talking to me. I think she needs to sort her avatar out. She doesn't have a moustache in real life. And in a second, we're going to take you outside. Yes. And these are the tombs of the people that were living in that community in southern Italy 1,300 years ago in the town of Vaste. And this is another staff member walking around. So we've got actual representations of the brickwork and the doors, the woods and the ceilings and the roof and what it would have looked like at the time. So this is the wonderful opportunity that VR provides us with, is that we can recreate not only the kind of modern day life, you can go to London in VR and immerse yourself there in 360 degrees with a native speaker holding your hand, there we go, holding your hand, walking around saying that car is moving, that person is checking into the hotel, etc. But you can also resurrect this old cultural heritage that ordinarily might have been lost, and you can use those for language learning experiences. But this next slide reflects some of the existing VR language learning experiences out there. Now, there's not an awful lot out there at the moment. These are some of the early key players. Play to Speak, and actually Giuseppe Fantigrossi is the guy, I think he's originally from Canada. He'll be speaking on Saturday in this very space as part of the International Summit about his product Play to Speak, which uses AI and voice recognition, I think, as well. They're weaving into their product to support the people in a more gamified environment to learn languages. You've got Mondly and you've got Immersive as well, and Immersive are doing some wonderful work out in Asia in particular. And so definitely check those out if you are interested in learning or teaching languages in virtual reality. But it's all about inclusion. And Matt Chacon earlier on the panel, I think it wasn't in this room, there were some desks and chairs there, but he made a comment on Twitter after and said, I was the only bald guy there. Thanks for having me on the panel, the only bald avatar. And that's what it's all about. It's about inclusion. And anybody, colour, creed, geographical location, it's about involving them and not letting them get forgotten about this new wave of technology. Because I'm standing here, I'm very fortunate to have an Oculus Go and an Oculus Quest. Many people out there do not have that opportunity to get their hands on the hardware, to get access to the learning material, to get access to the content. But a good first step, and this is some tips as well for you out there, is to maybe explore web VR. For example, Mozilla Hubs. There are some other events which Daniel and Laurel, the co-founders of this community, have set up. Mozilla Hubs, you can access that via your smartphone, I think, and you can also just put it into a pretty kind of bog standard headset you can pick up from Amazon, and you can immerse yourself through a URL as opposed to downloading applications. And these are some things that you could do. You can go onto Sketchfab, for example. If you have an Oculus Go, for example, that could work. You can search like Game Boy. This is what I did in one of my lessons the other week. We were talking about the future of entertainment and the past of entertainment, and I said, well, okay, let's have a look in Sketchfab. We searched Game Boy, and you can search for this in 3D, and I'm going to move my avatar out of the way. There's the arrow. You just click that, and you can walk around, and if you've got a 6 degree of freedom device, like an Oculus Quest, for example, you can look behind it, you can bring out the vocabulary to talk about this particular thing, and this is wonderful because it gives you a prop in the classroom. And can I get some emojis? Are there any language teachers out there? Yeah? There's some people clapping, so I'll come to you at the end with some questions. But it's really nice to walk into a classroom where people don't get exposed to in English language or the French, Spanish, whatever it is, and to walk in there with like a crisp packet or a bus ticket from where you come from in Spain, France or England, and to give them the opportunity to read the text that's on there and to have these props. It's a really nice opportunity to just get them exposed to what you are used to seeing as a native speaker. So but you obviously can't do that all the time. You can't take in a samurai swords to talk about the history of Japanese culture, but you can definitely do that in VR, as we saw in Immersive VR Education's tweet and post recently on the Engage platform, where someone was teaching Japanese with a samurai sword. You also cannot... sorry, I was unaware of the space around me. I just hit my head on the cupboard. So just, hang on a minute, I'll get my concentration back. You can't take a samurai sword into the classroom, and you might not be able to take a Game Boy into the classroom, but with VR, you can absolutely do that. We'll move to the next slide, and I'll move away from the cupboard. we've got here immersive video. So just because the content isn't there, maybe, I don't know, you teach Chinese or you teach Brazilian Portuguese, something a bit more random, you could kind of be a bit disheartened because you're saying, well, there's no content out there to support, you know, the language that I teach. Well, there are no excuses. There are immersive videos. You can get your students watching some of this wonderful content in 360 degrees with some really great audio experiences as well, and put the headset on them, but then take it off, and in the classroom, if you're there physically with them, get them talking about what they've seen, etc. Maybe just show them the controls and get them to point at the pause button halfway through the video. So when it reaches the halfway point, press pause, and we're going to talk. Hello again.
Can everybody hear me? Are we back with audio? Emojis, yes, 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 wonderful. I imagine Michael will be back any minute. Fantastic. The slideshows. Oh, Michael, we had to reset the space. Did you reset or did I?
No, I disappeared.
Okay, I reset the space, but your slides have jumped out. Are you able to bring them up quickly again?
I am, yeah. Let's do that right now.
Okay, bear with us, guys. Thank you very much. We have a stage diver. Lovely, Ben. Cool. Yay.
As long as
Feel
they
like
don't
I'm
start
at
throwing tomatoes,
a
I'm
Nirvana concert. Yay.
Right, we're going to put in the link there, GL final, and we press enter. And we cross out.
All right, coming up.
Prayer.
There we are. I think you're on. I can see them. Everybody see the slides? Everybody see the slides again? Lovely. Back over to you, Michael.
So, yeah. So, we're talking about practical ways that you can integrate VR into your language learning or language teaching experiences. So think outside the box. The fact there aren't apps out there specific to your needs, move on. Don't cry about it. Doesn't matter. Find apps. They are out there. Videos, 360 videos, collaborative tools, Sketchfab. You can bring those into the collaborative environments. Mozilla Hubs, for example. It's all out there. You just need to find it. Here are some of the wonderful platforms as well. We're in AltSpace, as you can see there, bottom left. You've got Engage, you've got Rumi, you've got Mozilla Hubs. These are some of the platforms that I'm using. And what Daniel said at the start of this this event is that, you know, the fact that I do try to spread myself evenly across these platforms, because I think some of these platforms offer things which others do not. And I love the social element of AltSpace, the fact that there is this kind of passing kind of traffic, so to speak, coming in the events and the language learning events that I do in AltSpace outside of this particular summit. It's great to have people just passing through, but then you have maybe more personal, private experiences as well in Engage and Rumi, which offer a more, let's say, kind of a more private experience with different features as well. So definitely try to get your teeth into those if you have not already, and go forth and educate. There are no excuses not to experiment with the technology and try to address those barriers that we saw at the start of the presentation. Now, I'm standing here again, as Daniel said, because I'm part of the V language learning track or subgroup, whatever you want to call it, as part of the Educators VR community. So please do join us there. We're talking about everything from physical language learning in virtual reality to maybe cultural experiences and how we can cross those boundaries between history, medicine, culture within the language learning context as well. So that's the great thing about languages, is that it isn't really confined to one area. People don't just learn languages to order a Coca-Cola in a foreign country. You do it because maybe you want to connect with people. Maybe you're talking to someone on the internet you've met online. I've seen it, I've heard it all before, and it's all good. So if you're interested to know more about how these immersive experiences can support language learning, please do get in touch via the Educators in VR Discord channel. And smash down the walls. Here we go. Here's a little video, and I'll talk about it after. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's a minute long.
Yes. Which city is it?
I don't know. Okay, no, I don't know.
What do you see? Describe the objects.
Stairs?
Yes, some stairs.
Yep. Lots of books.
Lots of books.
A table.
A table, good. And look under the table. If you look under the table.
Nothing.
Nothing, okay.
Right. And I moved too fast, so I was too truly happy on the video there. But, you know, this is the thing, is that last slide represents everything this is about. It's not about isolating people with the plastic on their faces and, you know, just kind of letting them get on with it. You as an educator, if you're out there, need to try to work together, network, collaborate, join this community to understand a bit more about how we can apply the technology in a way that solves problems and also breaks down those physical barriers. Because what I did there, that was me in southern, that wasn't me, that was one of my students in southern Italy. I basically put a poster on the local cafe. I said, look, if you want to try VR and learn English at the same time, Saturday morning, I'll be here 8:30 and bring some money for a coffee and a donut. And that's exactly what this young man did. And the fact that he was 14 years old and his parents were there as well because they were interested in trying it. And location-based VR as well is something that we shouldn't underestimate and just basically give everybody the opportunity to experience it, because he unfortunately couldn't afford the VR headset. But you know, if we work together and think outside the box, anything's possible. So there we go. That's an optimistic note to finish on. If you've got any questions, we're going to give you the hand raise feature in a moment, aren't we, Daniel?
We are indeed. Can we have a big round of applause, please, for Michael, who is a consummate professional at delivering in VR here. Thank you so much, Michael.
Thanks.
I'm getting goosebumps here, actually, because it just dawned on me, Michael, that while there are big companies developing apps for language with VR, I would go as far as to say that you're probably, from a grassroots perspective, you're probably being more innovative than all of them combined in terms of what you're doing with the virtual breakfast, what you're doing on the language community, what you're doing here on stage now, sharing directly with the people. You know, the companies, they're slow. They have to be slow because they have investors to satisfy and they have profits to make. But we're able to be so agile because we got a headset, we got some ideas, and we're going out in the field and trying it out, right? So that for me is one of the most exciting aspects of what you're doing, and I really appreciate your work there. I feel I'm benefiting tremendously. I'm a language learner myself, and that's how Michael and I met. I teach English as a foreign language in North Wales to refugees and migrant workers and international students. And I have to say, my project started out as VR for languages, but I got so involved in many other things that I haven't been able to focus on the language aspect as much as I want. But it's wonderful for me to know that people like Michael are out there innovating, experimenting, and I feel I benefit kind of by osmosis through knowing you. So thank you for the work you're doing. Right, let's switch on hands. Let me see there. Allow hand raises. We got that. Michael, you know what you're doing. You go for it. I'll get out of your way. I'll maybe ask you some questions myself. Say again.
Yeah, no, it's great to have you up here. And every time I meet you in this space, I kind of think we need to have more catch-ups, just me and you, and get other people along as well if they want. And just shoot. I don't want to say the word, but just shoot the breeze. Because it's exactly these types of conversations where we start to get all these ideas and understand a bit more about what you're working on and how we could drive this whole thing forward.
It's a deal. Let's do it.
That's official.
All right.
Can we get a photo with that? Here we go. Okay,
we'll have a virtual breakfast, Michael. Let's do that.
That's it. Yeah.
Right.
Like we've got some questions coming through. Happy to answer them. We've got one from Ben Loveridge. He's first on the list, and then we'll come to you, Mateusz. Hopefully, I'm saying that correctly. So, Ben, fire away.
Thanks, Michael. That was great. Sorry about the stage dive before. I've realised if you turn off the Guardian on the Oculus Quest, your rotation just goes way out. You end up everywhere. So I think I've got that under control now. So I work at the University of Melbourne. We work with French language educators, and they have hundreds of students, and they want to increase engagement, and they approach us to try and use VR in some way. So we did look at Mondly, and it seems okay, but the challenge that we'll have is scale. How do you scale VR to a lot of students? We do have a number of headsets, but sort of designing experiences around that. I guess at Mondly seemed a bit limited, so I'm interested to know from your perspective how you go about doing the language learning. And I think that doing a social VR experience would be probably just as effective, maybe cheaper even, than say Mondly or anything like that. So I think there might be more benefit in doing these social kind of catch-ups with students, talking to people who might speak French, rather than a standalone app. So I'm interested in your thoughts around that area.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. I'll let you off the stage dive after that. Nice question there. I guess what we could say is like, there is the content out there. You've got the platforms, and we don't, as I said before, need to necessarily rely on specific language learning apps. As great as they are, we also need to build the skills. So, I mean, what practically do I do? And just, some maybe ideas for people out there who are looking to get involved. Use places like Allspace, set up an event, go into Roomy, create a room invite code. Engage is the same. Create these events. To be honest, I've spent a lot of time just hanging around in rooms because people aren't going there, because it's still early days. But that's all part of the fun. You need to keep pushing it, keep promoting it. And eventually I'm seeing that people are beginning to trickle through. With regards to the social VR, what you said as well, they're not designed necessarily for education. And that's one of the barriers that I'm myself facing. Like, for example, with the slides here, like someone mentioned the other day, they're going to be standing on here in a few years at International Summit number 5 maybe, and it's going to be their hologram, and there's going to be, much easier ways to navigate and maybe audience participation. But these are early days. So I think it's just about trying to adapt what's already out there, whether they be social VR experiences or not, to support the way that you teach a foreign language. But you're right, Ben, it's not easy to necessarily get people in these spaces for starters. And then when they're in there, well, how does that learning look? And I think we really need to try to communicate and also mobilize teachers on a grassroots level. If you're interested in the technology, begin to build training frameworks, maybe an evidence base behind what you're doing, and also collaboration, academics in the community, etc. So hopefully it answers your question, but it's not a clear-cut answer. That's the point. We've got another question here. We've got 3 more. We'll come to Matthias, and then we've got Bess of Berlin. Matthias, what have you got to say?
Okay, thank you for the presentation. It was really great. I really admire your passion for both teaching languages and for VR as a medium, so that was amazing. We just got 2 quick questions. You've mentioned web VR. As a tool, are you aware of any apps or URL links that one could visit to maybe learn languages, or is there anything out there that you're aware of in terms of web VR?
Short answer, no. But Daniel, you particularly recently, I think I've picked up that you've been exploring more and more that particular world. Is there something you could say about that?
Sorry, I missed the beginning of the question. Can you repeat that, please?
That's right. So Matthias's question was about WebXR experiences specifically for language learning. Is that something you think you could answer?
Yeah, I'll do my best. So I am a huge fan of WebXR. I was in an event yesterday in Mozilla Hubs where the CEO, I think, or the head of Sketchfab, if you know Sketchfab, was giving a presentation about how you can use Sketchfab and WebXR. It's so easily created. You can create it in 2D and then go in immersively. So it's really an amazing tool for presenting. You can load 3D assets and videos in. I think one of the strengths for language learning might be that it's so easily accessible. I think the more different platforms that anything can run on opens up to a wider user base. So you might have maybe a classroom with only one headset, language learning classroom with only one headset, but if the others are on their mobile devices or on computers, they can take part in an immersive world or in a spatial experience there, and then they can swap around the headset. So it makes you a bit more agile. That's one thing. A friend of ours, Gabriel Baker, who works for, I want to say, Verbella, he's also developing his own app called FrameVR.io. And if you don't know that, I encourage you to check that out for XR, because he's built an amazing presentation tool. So it's called FrameVR.io. You create an account, and then you can create what's called a frame. And in that frame, you can drop pictures, and the frame is essentially a 3D web page. And you can drop videos, you can drop 360 photospheres, you can drop 3D assets, animated, and so on. It integrates well with Sketchfab. And then once you've built it, you can go and put your headset on, and you can jump into that creation. So students can create. Imagine a student doing a presentation. We have our language students do that sometimes. Michael, I don't know if you have your students sometimes practice for presentations. So now at home, they could build, instead of building a PowerPoint presentation, they could build a presentation in WebVR, WebXR, bring that into the or share the link with their instructor or teacher, and then have their class. They could present their presentation with the class immersively. So that's another way that you might use WebXR. I think it has tremendous potential, and I hope to see a lot more of it.
FrameVR.io, yes?
I think that's it. I think that pretty much that's it.
Yeah, thank you. That's very useful.
Absolutely.
I also have a quick question about that MIT paper where people would mimic or pantomime verbs that they were trying to learn, right? I found it quite interesting that without that pantomime, the level of retention was actually lower than traditional paper. Have you delved into the paper to see why that is, or was there any explanation given?
No, no. Actually, just to make that crystal clear, what it was that people who had in VR used the physical movements had the same retention of the vocabulary 1 week after as the people who learnt it in the more traditional method on paper. However, they outperformed the people who did not have the physical movements in VR. So that's the kind of important point there.
So it seems that but I don't know. Was it that maybe people were overwhelmed by the novelty of the VR experience, and this is why they performed a little bit worse than the people that were either performing the motions or because it seems that there was one group that didn't perform very well, right?
Yes, that was the people who were, let's say, passively in VR learning the vocabulary. So you're right. Definitely check that. It's MIT Fluid Interfaces Lab.
Okay, I will definitely have a look. Seems like a very interesting paper. Okay, thank you very much. These are the questions I had.
Thanks, Matthias. Just on that, there's actually Jack Ratcliffe on Saturday at, I think it's midday Central Europe time. He's involved in very similar work out in London. I think it's Queen Mary's University. Definitely come along to that, because he's talking about physical embodiment for language learners. So you can actually put those questions to Jack, and he knows a lot more about that area than I do. So you come along to that next week, man.
Can I just add something? I'm just whilst we're here, I don't know if you've heard about this, Michael, and if you haven't, I'm really excited to share this with you. So yesterday we had a presentation. Was it from Anson Ho? I think it was Anson Ho, the head of or program leader of Microsoft Education. Lovely guy, and he was telling us about the work that Microsoft is doing in the mixed reality space. And have you heard of Microsoft's Immersive Reader, Michael?
I've passingly heard. I'm not properly ready.
Oh my word! Oh my word, you'll have to go back and watch the video or get in touch with him. And he said for us to test, to email him. I think maybe even it's public, I don't know. But what he was showing us, I wonder if we could bring a web page in here now. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But Immersive Reader from Microsoft, I don't know how to describe it, but it is the absolute best version I have seen of making reading more accessible through like computer enhanced applications. I really don't know how to show it. I wish we could bring a video in here to show now, but essentially it's a kind of a, I think it's AI driven language interpretation, and it maps it out in a visual way that makes it much more easily readable for people with reading challenges. But not only that, you can translate, you can have it text to speech, and it's going to map into mixed realities. So imagine now, very soon with this technology, we'll be able to have here all kinds of other languages. They'll be able to read what's up on this title slide, and even if it's not their language, they'll be able to bring it up, they'll be able to interpret it, they'll be able to translate it, they'll be able to have it read it out to you, to themselves in mixed reality. I mean, I'm not doing it justice by explaining it that without the slides, but anybody who's interested in literacy and reading in mixed reality, I implore you to go check out Immersive Reader from Microsoft. I don't know how ready it is yet, but do that. You will not be disappointed. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing the speed at which things are changing as well. And I know we could kind of bemoan the fact that maybe certain things aren't happening as fast as they should be. But I mean, 10 years ago on this day, I was at university studying German in England. And in my bag, I had to take a big dictionary to class. And I remember there were some Chinese students who were in the business element of my course. And they were always in the front row. And they had these computers, little computers, which looked like calculators, which were like translators. And I was amazed at those little computers that they could translate with this little calculator type device. And now 10 years later, when we've not only kind of walked away from the dictionaries, but we've potentially got the windows to these foreign worlds of language learning experiences in our pockets through our smartphones and WebXR. I mean, it is just mind-blowing. I don't know where we're going to be in 10 years, but I hope you're all here with us. And I hope it's a good place. We've got another question, Daniel. They've been very patient. Actually, so patient they've disappeared. I'm sorry, Besso Berlin, if you're still here, raise your hand. We'd love to come to you. Anybody else who's got something to say on anything that's been mentioned today, feel free to ask. Otherwise, I'm more than happy to wrap things up and hopefully see you next year.
All right, well.
We have got something. Sorry, Daniel.
Yeah, go on.
There we go. Besso Berlin. You're live.
Hi, can you hear me?
Give us a... Yeah, hi there.
So sorry, I was late to the presentation. Just a quick question.
That's okay.
Is there any chance to review your slide?
I can send you the slide deck if you want. Add me as a friend. Also, the chap at the front there waving his hand. I think you might need one as well. Sure. Sorry for any technical difficulties you might have had as well. So I can send you the slides. Add me as a friend. I'll accept, and I'll send you an email. There might also be a video of this going out. I think Daniel said it was live streamed to YouTube, so it will be burned into history forever. Yeah. Thanks for the question. All right. We've got a whole host of V-language events coming up. We're halfway through that particular thing. We've Giuseppe Fantigrossi on Saturday talking about his AI app for language learners. We've got Jack Ratcliffe just before him, lunchtime Europe, Saturday, talking about embodiment in VR for language learning. And tonight we've 7 o'clock Central European time, Rome. Brighton, and she's working with Virtual Entertainment. She went and founded that company out there, and they're using, again, AI-driven characters to support language learning, with more languages coming out later this year. So definitely check out the events calendar. It's been an absolute pleasure. I hope
Fantastic.
I haven't bombarded
Give
you
it up,
too much.
Mike. Give it up for Michael,
words.
Everybody. Thank you.
Right.
And Michael, you
Thanks
said
very
see
much.
you next year. Let's not wait a year. Let's we'll be doing other stuff as well. All right.
All right, great. Wonderful.
The metaverse is open 24/7. So
24/7.
All right. Wonderful.
That's it.
Thank you, guys. Feel free to stay here or check out some of the other events. We also have like a social lounge where you can go and chill out a little bit in between. Before you do go, we have a nice little theme running throughout this event called Selfie Summit. So please, if you're into that kind of stuff, take a selfie in the world here in Altspace or the other platforms. Send it in, tag @EducatorsVR, hashtag Selfie Summit, Summit Selfie, sorry. Yay, well done. And also, please, not only in world, please take pictures of where you are in the real world with your VR headset on. Show us where you are. At the end of the summit, we want to make a poster to represent what this conference or this summit actually looks like in the real world. We want to get lots of pictures of people with headsets on and put it together into a poster and display where you all are. So yeah, tag EducatorsVR and hashtag Summit Selfie. Thank you very much, guys. Enjoy the next session.
Thank you very much. Right. Where's the bar? There's the catering company have brought some wonderful 0 kilometer organic foods, which I'm now about to serve. So come on over. What do you want? Daniel?
I want to double on the rocks, please.
Yeah, okay. Well, we don't have that. I can give you a chopping board, a knife, or a frying pan.
I'll pass. Scrambled eggs.
All right, good. I think there's a way also of standing in the sink. There we go. Right, that's it. I don't know what to do. I'm improvising. I'm going to go away now. It's lunchtime for me.
Vegan options, please.
Vegan option, right. Yeah. I'll have a look in the fridge. Hang on a second, Matthias. No, they haven't stocked up. Right. I'm going now. It's real lunchtime for me. Take care, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Grazie, ciao.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Very
mate.
nice.
Bye-bye.
Cheers all. Bye.
All right, there we go.
Ooh.
Lovely.
Ah, there's the portal. Let's see where this takes me.
and I wasn't all that impressed. And then I put the head-mounted display on for the very first time, and I was really surprised at the feeling I experienced in there. So I was looking at someone who was sitting on the edge of his bed, and he was struggling to breathe. And I asked him some questions, and I could hear that he was only able to speak 4 or 5 words between taking breaths, and I could see, accessory muscle use, and I could take a stethoscope and listen to his lungs and actually hear abnormal lung sounds, and I could take vital signs, and I could teleport over to his night table, pick up his medications to see what meds he was taking, and oftentimes patients don't know what their medical history is, and so we rely heavily on the prescription drugs to tell us what sort of conditions they have. At the end of the experience, I was really struck by the feeling that I had in virtual reality. It was not dissimilar from the feeling I have as a paramedic when I encounter someone who's really sick. I had that little twinge of adrenaline that made me think I need to assess and treat this guy before he deteriorates. And that was really, I was really awestruck by that experience. And I thought, how valuable would this be, especially for my first year paramedic students, because in first year, or at least in the first semester, they don't actually get to see sick or injured patients. So we do a lot of case-based learning, but the students have no context. They just, hear descriptions that I give them about someone who's struggling to breathe or someone who's injured, and we might show some images, but there's no context there. And I think virtual reality has the great potential to provide that. Now, in my exploration of virtual reality applications, I found that there are very few applications that are suitable for first-year students. Many of them are more suitable for third-year and fourth-year students who already have knowledge and comprehension, and they're just the applications help develop their critical thinking skills, their higher order thinking skills. And so I'm hoping that over time, VR will evolve to provide simulations more suitable for students in the earlier years. So as a result of integrating virtual reality in my paramedic program with patient simulation, teaching empathy, and using virtual reality for synchronous online learning, I ended up proposing at my college that they create a position to lead VR and AR, and they created it, and I applied for it and got it. So I'm now the immersive technology lead at the college, hence the title there. And I work a lot with health, of course, but I'm working with multiple programs. The focus of this talk is going to be on the future of immersive learning for healthcare, and I'm just going to give you sort of I won't talk too much about the evidence. I'm going to really focus more on sort of my thought process in integrating VR and healthcare. I'm going to try to move the slide here. Unfortunately, my avatar has to do a 180-degree turn to advance the slides. So I'm hoping you can see the entire slide because I only see a portion of the slide. But
we see the whole thing.
Okay, good. Okay, perfect. Beautiful. So virtual reality, XR in general, is different from other educational technologies in the sense that it costs quite a bit more money, so it really requires a great deal more scrutiny. And so when I sit down with other faculty to talk about adoption of VR, the two biggest barriers are, number one, cost, and number two, the lack of available VR applications that might be suitable. So we have a discussion around pedagogy, and when I say pedagogy, we're thinking about, what domains does this VR application address? Does it address the cognitive, the psychomotor, or the affective domain? And one of the most compelling areas is the affective domain, as numerous speakers have alluded to, where we can use virtual reality for empathy. When we experience embodiment, we can talk about empathy. So that's really quite compelling. I think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So, for example, if I'm going to take my paramedic students into a VR experience where they're triaging a mass casualty incident, they're looking at multiple patients who've been injured or killed, and they're sorting them out according to priority, that might require some some stress inoculation training before they have that experience. I think about, I'm trying to see the slide here. I think about software. I think about, is this a single player software application? Is it a multiplayer software application? Does it have analytics at the end, some sort of evaluation for the students? Does it use biometrics, eye tracking, and so on and so forth? Does it have video capture, volumetric video capture, so that as the instructor, I can go into the 3D world and see how my student did after the fact? I think of hardware, I think predominantly about, is it PC-based VR that requires a space, it requires a setup, or is it portable and affordable? And I think the way educational institutions are going to go is towards portable devices. That's my hope, because they're a little more cost effective and much easier to use, because if we move down to space is an issue at colleges and universities. In fact, if I wanted to book a meeting, let's say tomorrow at my college, there's not a snowball's chance in Tahiti I would get a meeting space. We would end up meeting in a cafeteria or in some quiet hallway somewhere. So to actually find a space where you can set up a PC-based VR, pretty challenging. And so portable and affordable is another thing. Pricing is interesting. So in Canada, we have predominantly a public college and university system, unlike the US, which is a real blend of public and private. And so we have a sort of pricing threshold, which is pretty critical for us. And the conversation I've been having with companies for the last couple of months has been that if they have a subscription fee, per student subscription fee, we just can't pay it. It's just not possible. It's not possible to incorporate it into tuition. It's not possible to incorporate it into a student fee, because it becomes a moving target, and we're looking at adopting maybe several different VR applications. And we have a very low threshold. There's a program we were looking at, which is truly fantastic, but they wanted $2,000 a year for it, for one license, for one headset. And I said we could afford between $50 and $80 a year. How does that sound? and you're a little taken aback by that. And then, of course, we have to look at return on investment. So, if we're looking at a $2,000 a year program, and that's cheap, by the way, there are some really, truly amazing medical simulation programs out there that are in the neighborhood of 30 or 40 grand a year. But if those simulations only address one or two learning objectives out of one course out of 30 or 40 courses, there's just no return on investment. And I know that if we go to a dean, they're going to say, no, just do the simulation with students. We just can't afford that kind of pricing. So let me just rotate here to the next slide. There we go. Okay, good. So I'm going to talk about XR or VR in medical simulation from three different areas. So one, e-learning, I'll talk about that, and empathy and simulation, finish off with empathy, and then sort of move on to what I think we should be aiming towards in terms of a metaverse for medical simulation. And I want to do that sort of framed around the idea of these concepts of presence, embodiment, and agency. And I know you're all familiar with these concepts, so I won't go over them in too much detail. But so presence is this idea that your rational brain tells you that the environment you're in is not real, but hopefully your reptilian brain says, boy, this sure feels real. And so presence is one thing and is critical for all VR experiences. The other one is this concept of realism. And I had this discussion with a company recently, a software development company recently, and they said for their medical simulation, they use these cartoonish patients, which is fine if you're learning a skill and practicing a procedure. So for example, they demonstrated a insulin administration scenario, and it made perfect sense to have a cartoonish character when you're just going through the motions of washing your hands in virtual reality and pulling a drug out of a drawer, drawing it up in a syringe, injecting it into a bag and so on and so forth. And that's perfectly okay. But if you want to address higher order thinking in virtual reality, we really need to start to move towards, what some people uncomfortably call the uncanny valley, where patients look more realistic. They look like they're genuinely sick or injured. So their perception was, do we really want to go to the uncanny valley? And my answer is absolutely, because the objective with medical students, be it nursing, paramedicine, physicians, is we want to create a sense of suspended disbelief. We want them to feel like they're actually with a sick or injured patient, so that when they encounter truly sick or injured patients, there's less of a mental leap in that direction. So presence is essential for all VR experiences, in my opinion. And embodiment is really interesting, because embodiment is critical for learning empathy, for developing empathy in virtual reality. And Jeremy Bailenson, who you've all heard of, I'm sure, from the Virtual Human Interactive Lab at Stanford University, has done a number of studies in the psychology of embodiment and the Proteus effect, where we tend to inhabit or we tend to adopt the avatar that we take on and perceive ourselves as that avatar. So if we, and I'll talk about this in a couple of minutes, but this is really important for empathy. And lastly, this concept of agency. And on a scale, there's no agency, local agency, global agency, and it's not that one is better than the other. It's just different ones serve different purposes. So an example of no agency would be going on a virtual roller coaster. We're really not doing any interaction. Local agency would be being able to pick up a syringe, draw up a drug, and just go through the motions of the procedure and develop muscle memory. And this is very important for learning skills and practicing skills, especially low frequency, high risk skills. And on the not so high risk, take surgical procedures, for example. If you can practice them over and over again and just picking up the right piece of equipment at the right time and doing the right things at the right time, then your time in the lab is actually better spent, because you've had that practice over and over again. Global agency is the idea that what you do has consequences, changes the outcome. So in a higher order thinking scenario where I draw up the drug and give the drug to the right patient at the right time via the right route, it actually changes their vital signs. So if I give the right drug, their heart rate maybe comes down, their blood pressure comes down, their color improves, and they feel better. And that's a type of agency interaction in virtual reality that has a change in the outcome. So at least in our college, we're looking, I sort of broadly categorize virtual reality into 4 areas. Empathy, online learning, simulation, and the 4th one is medical therapy. I'm not going to talk about medical therapy. It's a huge area, all of its own, in an entirely new specialty. What's interesting about virtual reality for medical therapy is that it's so big that I think community colleges and universities are actually going to start to develop programs and maybe even degrees in that specialty area, so that people have an understanding of how impactful virtual reality is for mental health and physical health, and become virtual reality therapists of a sense, or virtual reality therapy assistants to help people in the medical field. But the areas I want to focus on in terms of education are empathy, online learning, and simulation. I left simulation to the last because I think it's one of the more interesting areas. But Jeremy Bailenson said that VR gives you experiences, and experiences change perception. And this is really quite compelling, or has been in my experience. So we've explored some empathy apps with our paramedic students. We're looking at them with our nursing students as well. And so when you can take on the avatar of someone who is experiencing dementia or homelessness, or is on the autism spectrum, or is the victim of cultural bias, it has a much more profound impact on our perception than I might be able to have, for example, just having a discussion with my students around autism or disabilities or cultural aggression, cultural bias. And so I'm really excited about the potential for empathy in medical education. It's just, it's the affective domain, which is arguably the most difficult domain to teach in. And so when it comes to online learning, virtual reality is very interesting right now. I'm very excited about the idea of teaching online, but you think about what we're doing here right now. I'm on a stage, I've got some slides, you're in the audience, you're in an amphitheater style room. And personally, this is really not what I want to do in terms of online learning in virtual reality. I want to think differently about online learning in virtual reality. We have the opportunity to do that. So on the one hand, what virtual reality gives us is a sense of presence. We're committed to a classroom in the sense that unlike, for example, a webinar, in virtual reality, we're more or less distraction free. It's more difficult for a student to check their Facebook page or take the dog for a walk when their avatar is looking us in the eye and we're having a face-to-face conversation. And in terms of embodiment, this is an interesting area that I don't have a whole lot of concerns with in terms of higher education, but we look at alt space, we're all, fairly generic avatars, and that's kind of democratizes the learning process a little bit. And but some will argue that avatars that are a more accurate reflection of what we actually look like are a little bit better. But that then creates, can create problems with unconscious bias. So interestingly, I went to 2 universities, but I've never been to the universities physically. So I did my undergraduate degree online. I did my master's degree online. And I did 4 years of community college long before that. And I found that online learning was a very isolated experience. And so when I teach online, I've been teaching mostly a blend of asynchronous and synchronous using a webcasting platform. But now that we've got virtual reality, this is a very exciting area to explore. But ultimately, I want us to get to the metaverse, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. So in terms of simulation, simulation ranges from discrete skills to scenarios, which really enables us to develop our higher order thinking or critical thinking skills. And both of these ends of the spectrum are really important. In terms of discrete skills, I think from a healthcare perspective, it's important to get a suite of skills from a company in order to make it cost effective. If they give us just a single skill or a couple of skills, unless it's under $50 a headset per student, it's just, probably not worth the investment. The experience I've had with virtual reality simulations ranges from the really basic things like anatomy. And anatomy in virtual reality is a low-hanging fruit. We have 5,000 healthcare provider students. All of them take anatomy. The British Columbia Institute for Technology right now is, in the fall, is doing a randomized control trial where they're going to allocate students to either analog learning in anatomy or online learning in virtual reality using a product called Organon. So you can go into a virtual reality lab, anatomy lab, and look at parts of the body and different body systems and microscopic structures. And the agency is fairly low in the sense that you can point at structures and it labels them. You can pull them off and look at them from different angles and look at the insertion points and so on and so forth. And you can have an instructor in there teaching. And of course, anatomy is sort of lower level thinking. It's knowledge and comprehension. It's not critical thinking. But this is a really compelling way to look at teaching anatomy online. And we do have anatomy classes currently that are online. And and quite frankly, probably so boring that you want to poke your eyes out with a sharp stick because it's just images and text and not terribly exciting. So really excited about that. We're one of our anatomy teachers for our baccalaureate nursing program is interested in taking a class of 45 students into virtual reality to teach anatomy. So hoping that's going to launch in the fall for us. Some of the higher order thinking stuff. So interesting, scenario-based stuff. This is an example of patient simulation that we tried, and it was great from a critical thinking perspective. The only thing that was the stumbling blocks of things that were awkward about it is that if I want to ask the patient question, I have to choose from a drop-down list. If I want to do assessment, I have to choose from a drop-down list. If I want to administer a medication, I have to choose a drug from a drop-down list. And obviously, that's not how we work in the field. I don't go to someone's home, see someone who's having a heart attack, and suddenly this multiple choice bubble pops up in front of my sight of, my line of sight. It just doesn't work that way. So, the ideal, in my view, would be voice recognition and artificial intelligence that enables you to get through a scenario so you can have, more or less natural conversations with the avatars and moving forward. The other piece is that for scenarios like this, for me personally, it's really important to have a high level of, or a global agency so that you can, you've got a couple of students in there, one of them is taking vital signs, and instead of clicking a button that says blood pressure, another button says pulse, another button that says respirations, they're actually doing those things. So they're taking a blood pressure cuff out of a pocket and putting it on the arm, they're taking a pulse oximeter and putting it on the finger. They're doing all those things, they're developing the muscle memory. While the other student is doing, taking a history, doing an assessment, and doing coming up with a differential diagnosis and narrowing that down to a provisional diagnosis, and then initiating some treatments. This this other scenario, and Dr. Tim Cobalt is going to be talking about this after my talk, I believe, is really, really interesting. So this simulation uses voice recognition and artificial intelligence. And you can see there's a medical student or a physician resident who's wearing the headset, and she's looking at a team of healthcare providers, and they each have name tags, and she can speak to those name tags. She can say, Fatima, can you start an intravenous line? Amanda, can you administer epinephrine 1 milligram intravenous? And the mannequins will actually follow those orders and carry out those orders. So not a lot of agency, arguably no agency at all other than the voice recognition piece, but phenomenal program for higher order thinking, critical thinking and decision making, which is really interesting. And I don't want to take away from Dr. Cobalt's his thunder, but so other programs, the one on the left and the one on the right both have local agency in the sense that the student is able to do a lot of things with their hands or with their controllers, if you will, pick things up, draw drugs up, do things. And this is really powerful in terms of developing muscle memory and being able to get through procedures much faster when they get into the lab or when they get into the clinical setting. And even if it's just local agency where they're just doing things without any change in the outcome, that's great for learning. And if you add global agency to that where it changes the outcome, even better still. But we have to be sort of cognizant, getting back to pedagogy, we have to be cognizant of the the cognitive load as well, and is that going to be overloading for some students? This is an interesting one, and it's purely a communication tool. It's actually not an empathy tool, but it's a communication skill, and this is so important, I find, for paramedic and nursing students, medical students as well, but I don't teach at a college where there's a medical program, where it uses voice recognition, artificial intelligence, so you can have a conversation with a client or a patient. So you go into this program, you can look at their chart, and then you have a conversation. So I'll say, good morning, Valerie. My name is Rob. I'm a paramedic student. How are you today? And she'll say, oh, not so great. And I'll say, I understand you have a headache. How long has this been going on? And she'll say, I've had them for 2 weeks now. And I said, is it worse today? It's much worse today. When did it start? And it's really an incredible interactive experience. The other cool thing about this particular program, and it's called PCS Spark if you're interested, is that if I ask a question she doesn't understand, she'll say, I don't understand your question, or can you ask the question differently? And it forces you to think about how you would ask a question differently. When you encounter someone who has a language barrier, or even someone who has dementia, or even someone who has no cognitive disabilities and no language barrier, but still doesn't understand your question. So it's really quite powerful, but a little on the expensive side. So finally, to just sort of wrap up, when it comes to adopting virtual reality as part of healthcare education, I think it's important to think about the pedagogy before the technology, and this is true of all educational technologies, but particularly VR because of the cost, really. I try to think about what's important. So presence is always important. Embodiment is particularly important for learning empathy. In agency, it depends on what you're hoping the students will accomplish. If they're learning a skill, local agency is really all that's necessary. If you're wanting to help them develop their higher order thinking, their critical thinking, then global agency, becomes important. So voice recognition, physical interaction, AI, really exciting. Haptics and biometrics is and analytics is a really compelling areas in the future of virtual reality. A lot of these programs come with analytics that give the student an evaluation, tell them what they missed, what they missed was critical, and so on and so forth. The haptics piece is going to become increasingly important when we want our students to learn, not just develop muscle memory, but actually learn the tactile skills, and maybe somewhere between haptics and mixed reality will be the future. Biometrics is interesting. Privacy issues aside, I'm really interested in eye tracking technology, emotion tracking technology. This will be important for doing stress inoculation training with our students before they go to a mass casualty incident, for example. We're doing a study in our this semester with our driver simulator. It's not virtual reality. It's a driver simulator that's a wraparound video, but we're using Tobii eye tracking to study students' situational awareness. Are they, are their eyes looking at the car that might be backing into the driveway, or the pedestrian that might be walking between the cars? And this is a technology now in virtual reality headsets. So I'm particularly excited about that possibility in a medical situation. So when my paramedics arrive at a car crash in virtual reality, are they looking at the appropriate things? Are they focused? Are they looking out for their own personal safety and ensuring, for example, that the fighters have parked the truck in such a way that's going to protect them from getting hit by oncoming cars? Are they looking for hazards? Are they looking, something that might pose a risk for them or for their patient? And we can do that with those biometrics. And lastly, I think it's really important for all of us as educators in healthcare, whatever field you happen to be into, number one, explore virtual reality applications, and number two, engage with the vendors and just tell them what our pain points are in terms of education, and also what our thresholds are for expenditures. I can't even count the number of company representatives I've spoken to recently, where I've told them, we just can't afford that. We'll never be able to afford that. So thanks very much anyway. And a lot of them are willing to negotiate. There was a company that wanted $9,000 for this application. It's a beautiful application. I love the application. And I said, there's just no way we can afford it. And he said, what about $4,000? And I said, what about $1,000? And he said, how about 2,000? And I said, okay, let me talk to the dean about it. So, companies are flexible. They want to sell their products and they don't want to go out of business. But I think, it's early days in VR, and I think companies are going to come and go out of business very quickly. And usually because they don't have quite the right pricing model. And, the pricing model for private universities and colleges is very different for the pricing model for, public educational institutions. So that's my worry at the moment. So thank you so much. And I've said a lot. If you have any questions, happy to entertain them.
And then put my megaphone. And I will put a question. You'll see a raised hand. And so if you have a question for Rob, click the raised hand and I will give you the megaphone. Okay.
If you're in Pacific time and Eastern Standard Time, I just want to say thanks for showing up so early in the morning.
Tim, you have the megaphone. Yeah. Go ahead and ask your question.
Hey Rob.
Hey Tim.
Great talk.
Thank you.
So I'm interested to find out, like, when you're talking, to these vendors. I've had some, similar conversations with them. It seems like, a lot of them either want to do it like a subscription model, or have, a per headset price or per user price, and what, part of the issue that I have, so teaching, I teach students and resident physicians, is like we have turnover of the learners every year. So it's like, okay, maybe I can get funding for this thing for 1 year, but then how do I fund a recurring thing? Like just getting a grant would be like, okay, I have 1 year to do something now. Or it's like, okay, this person is going to be here for 6 more months and then they're going to be gone and I'm going to have a new person. Like, how do I fill that in? Like, have you found a way to like kind of just, in discussions with them, sort of find a way that, they can sort of work with you or understand like your needs? Like, are they understanding the educational side of it for you? Like how, the structure of your learning environment, things.
So, some seem to understand it and are flexible in that regard. Some not so flexible. It's really interesting. That's the thing I've been running up against constantly. So, like I was saying earlier, we just can't tolerate a subscription-based system per student for the reasons I mentioned earlier. Can't put it in tuition, can't make it a student fee. Like you said, our students come and go. So we might start with 56 students in the program, and 4 weeks later, we're down to 52. And then the next semester, we're down to 45. And then the semester after that, we're back up to 52 because we brought some returning students in. And so, the other issue is who's going to forward this information to the company. It's not going to be the teacher. It's not going to be the registrar's office. So it's just not feasible to do a per student subscription. So what I've been telling companies, and some companies are amenable to this, is we can handle a fee per headset, not per student. The other, one of the companies I'm really excited about working with, but they, for an application that's going to be used by 5,000 healthcare students, they want the names and email addresses of all the students to log them in. And I don't know what it's like in the United States, but we have privacy laws in Canada that prevent us from doing that. So they're never going to get the students' names and login information or email addresses unless the students themselves do that, and that's a possibility. But it's just going to be really difficult to adopt any sort of application that requires a per student license fee. So it's a work in progress. I don't have a magic solution, but if you come up with one, I think there's power in numbers. So if a lot of us get on the same page, like Tanya's Killing's in the audience, she's from Seneca College, and she and I and another person from another college further south from where I live, have been talking, and I think if we're all on the same page and we're telling companies the same things, eventually they'll get the message. Unfortunately, they're not going to recoup all their research and development costs with the first client, the second client, or the third. And I'm hoping, they can bring the pricing down low enough that they can get their money from volume, pure volume. Yeah, it's not a great answer, but that's essentially the approach I'm taking.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay.
Excited to hear your talk coming up.
Forbum? Forbum, you have the microphone.
Thanks. Thanks for the talk. So I'm teaching students creating such experiences, and I wondered whether you have any experience with collaborating with universities or other programs where the students would produce some of these experiences. Like, for example, with these examples you showed with 360-degree videos and the menus, right? I mean, that would be something that students could produce relatively easily.
Yeah, thanks for that question. That's a great question. We haven't so far, but I think that's a great way for colleges and universities to go. If they have a VR AR program within their college and they can do projects on our behalf, that would be fantastic. I spoke recently with Mary Lim from the Vancouver Film School in British Columbia, and we might be doing a project with their students to develop a crime scene preservation app for our police studies in our paramedic program, where they go into the scene of a crime and they try to avoid, taking the steps that the criminal might have taken. They try to avoid disturbing any blood spatters on the walls as they approach the victim. So, yeah, I think that's a superb idea, and I'm hoping that universities and colleges that have VR and AR programs, their curriculum enables students to do projects for other faculty and students in the school. That's really a great way to do it. I think it would give some competition to the private enterprise and hopefully drive their costs down as well.
Any additional questions?
All right. Okay, well, thanks very much again for coming out. And
Rob, thank you so much. My head is spinning with ideas now. And,
great.
Thank you very much.
Never,
Thank you. It's amazing. Thank you again. Ladies and gentlemen.
Oop, we lost you there, Diamond.
Rob, if you can, where'd you go?
I'm up here in the audience now.
Okay, I didn't know if you had time to meet with people. We're going to set up the room for the next presentation. There's a portal to a social area out back by the stairs. So if you all would like to join Rob there, then we'll get the room set up for the next presentation. Thank you all.
I'm standing by the portal.
Lots.
Hi.
Oh, thanks, Donna. Lots of hearts. Thank you very much for coming.
the next talk, I believe. I'm up after Rob.
Hi. Do you have your slides, or did you send us your slides?
I had sent them to the...
Hey, Diamond, look in your, check your DM, check your DMs. I sent them to you.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, and we can unmute everybody. Yeah, everybody's unmuted.
Great.
So let me do that.
I did mine in Google Slides, so, but I think that hopefully she'll work kind of like Rob did, where when the practice session, it looked like I could advance them if I look at the screen.
Do you want to come up on the stage and I'll clear this out? We're going to clear the deck and.
Okay.
Here, I'll do, hang on. Oh,
we're in.
What the? I'm coming. I got myself stuck somewhere. I have to re-enter. This is embarrassing. I have no idea where I am. I'm in a wall somewhere.
I like these robot avatars, they light up when they're talking. It's kind of cool. I'm regretting my choice of generic white guy like I am in real life here. But
yeah,
I thought somebody today that was typing and his mouth was moving as he was typing, and I thought this is just too unreal.
Okay, guys, just give it a couple seconds. You'll go blank. And then just do slides the regular way that you know.
All right, let me just look here.
Oh, pardon me. That's right.
All right. Do you need me to pull it up here, or do you want to?
Yeah, it should be through the browser, Tim. Try that.
Okay.
Oh, there you are.